waiting.
It's 6:20, so we're already late. Let's do this. Oh. Mr. Treasurer is not here. He's out, but we have enough. I'm going to call the meeting. It's at 6:22. And I want to welcome everybody here. We have good dinner, so fill up and sit down and engage, and let's do this. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay,
Over there.
please face the flag, put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Secretary, call the roll.
David. Here. Hassan. Here. Susan.
Here.
Alex. Absent. Jason.
Here.
Andrew. Here. Becky.
Here.
Jennifer.
Here.
Assad. Here. Gabriel. Here. Isam.
Here.
10. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item 5, motion to approve the March 14 PRNC meeting minutes. These were distributed to the board early on, and the draft version is on our website and in the packet. So, any comments on the minutes? And I have a motion to approve the minutes.
All right. I want to make a motion to approve March 14, 2018 minutes.
Have a second.
I second.
Okay. Any public comments on the minutes? Any board comments? Okay, call the vote.
All right. David.
Yes.
Susan.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry, abstain, I wasn't here.
Andrew. Alex is absent. Jason.
I'm abstaining, I wasn't here either.
Gabriel. Yes. Becky.
Yes.
Jennifer.
Yes.
Assad.
Yes.
Hassan. Yes. Isam.
Yes.
And motion passes.
Thank you. Item 6, it is about the monthly expenditure report. When we agendized the meeting and we posted the agenda and the attachments, the MER was not yet available. That's the financial report for March from the city. It was not available yet. It only became available on Monday, so we have it on the agenda as pending. We have a packet over there for public view that has the expenditure report and all the receipts. And the board has a copy of the first 2 pages, so we don't print 36 pages of receipts for everybody. So if anybody has any point of discussion or comment on the monthly expenditure report that would like to ask the treasurer about? Andrew, anything you want to tell us about the MER?
Nope. Nothing. All of me financially comes in the next agenda item.
Okay.
Neat.
All right, so can I
I make a motion to approve the March monthly expenditure report as presented.
Second it.
Okay, any public comments on the monthly expenditure report? No public comment. Board, any comment? All right, no comment, call the vote.
All right. David.
Yes.
Susan.
Yes.
Andrew.
Oh, yes.
Alex. Absent. Jason.
Abstain?
Gabriel. Becky.
Yes.
Jennifer.
Yes.
Assad.
Yes.
Hassan. And Isam.
Yes.
And motion passes.
Okay, just to let everybody know, the mic here is live, and there's a mic here for the board. Anybody who wants it, just let me know, we'll pass it around along with you. Okay, item 7.
Paperwork issue.
So, Mr. Treasurer,
Yes, sir.
have at it.
All right. have a supplement packet, looks like this. This is the
Got it.
city graph. It is double-sided, mine is not, it is double-sided. What you see here, and members of the public, there are multiple copies up here at the front table if you'd like one. Okay. What this is just a printout of the Neighborhood Council Funding Program website for our council. Okay. If you, on the board, flip to the back of page 1, the number that I want you to focus on is the $24,865.68. That is the available balance. Okay. That takes into account the cash balance, which is located just below it, less outstanding items on page 1. Okay?
Okay.
That's very basic. Do you have any very top level questions? Because then you're going to turn over to the back of page 2 and we're going to dive into it. All right. Please turn over to the back of page 2. What you will see is a spreadsheet that I put together. Cash analysis. Okay? The cash balance of the 4/11/18 is $24,865.68. You'll notice that's the same number as page 2, or excuse me, the back of page 1 as our available funds. Okay? These are all the items that I either know we've approved and need to be paid for, or have estimated going forward. The storage unit is $372. I paid that today, actually. That pays us through the end of the fiscal year. The estimated meeting food for our next 3 meetings, the estimated website fee for May and June, because I already paid April, the estimated printing for April, May, and June, personnel costs, that's the note taker, estimated for May and June, because I paid the April bill. And under outreach is remaining Earth Day expenses. That is the permit and the food. The steel mugs got charged today, which is why it's not reflected up top, because it hasn't posted. Constant Contact, which is $65 a month for 3 more months. Facebook for $15, that's an estimate. And then I'm still working on the Friends of Oak Ridge MPG for $1,000, which we previously approved. Okay? That leaves us with a more accurate operating budget of $15,901.92. Please reference this number as we hear the many funding requests we have tonight. That's the number that we have to spend between now and June 30th. $15,901.92. I can make an argument that there are a number of funding items or lower end ones for reimbursements that probably should back out as well, but that is at the discretion of the board. Okay? Please keep this in front of you as we go through all the funding motions tonight, so you can start keeping notes and a tally as to what you personally want to approve and for how much. Because if we get to $15,901, that's it.
Done.
Okay? Yes.
I know you were asking Councilor Englander's office if they would approve us rolling over what we don't spend this year to the next fiscal year. Did you get an answer on that?
That is a hard no. We got a 1-year gift for that.
Okay, thank you.
And that is not a Councilman Englander office item. That is a city clerk's item. And no, at this point we have $15,901.92. Spend it or lose it. And we certainly have enough options tonight to spend it.
So one question, is it traditional to put any amount of money in some sort of like a cash reserve? This is our money, but it says 2K just in case any emergency comes or?
You can't do that in a rollover setting. We as a board, in terms of setting our budget, could have done something like that. There are a number of items here. We could save money by not providing meeting food. We could, that's pretty much it.
Are you asking, you mean past the end of the fiscal year?
What I'm saying is, we know, let's say tonight, there are a number of resolutions, we give this money to different causes or different motions. Something comes up and all of a sudden we had not anticipated, and we really need to do it. Where do we get that money? We have no money.
You don't.
You don't.
You don't have. That's it.
So it's a hard
It's the decisions of this meeting, the decisions of the month in May meeting. And to clarify, Andrew, in June, it's too late to approve the new expenditures in June, even if the money is there. Is that a fair statement? Because the timing,
Yeah,
as been told, is
there's a cutoff in the middle of the month where our credit card will no longer work. So that's very restrictive. And then I have to provide a listing to the city of any other outstanding payments towards the end of the month that have been approved. Yes. Right? That they are going to need to cover on our behalf if we won't have access to our funding system.
So it's better to plan to have all our expenditures resolved by the May meeting, in my opinion.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Anything else?
Yes.
Okay, questions? Becky, you had a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering, steel mugs, $2,400, do we have a sample of them, or how many?
The mugs?
Yes,
No, they're coming
150.
Thursday or Friday.
It says, oh, really, outreach steel mugs, oh, 2,000, okay. And how many are we getting?
I think it's 250.
Yeah.
That's from a motion 2 months ago.
I know, I
It's just-
just asked.
it's just finally got paid.
It's about 250.
Okay. And the remaining Earth Day expenses, 1,800 with remaining
Permit and the food,
permit. And how much is the permit?
700.
I got that today. I'll have to be reimbursed.
Okay.
It was actually 877. But we get
We get it back.
we get a deposit back, assuming we all stay and clean up the park.
Okay, another question. Jason, just,
So, Andrew, I mentioned the 75, so beautification committee, the board, approved the 7,500 to be spent on the Adopt a Median project. However, I spoke with the department in the city, and that has virtually no chance of being approved this fiscal year. So where does the 7,500, has it already been deducted from this?
So it's back in there.
It's back in there?
It's back in there.
Okay, gotcha. And then, so you're figuring that'll be spent next fiscal year or beyond?
I'm not figuring anything about that. That'll be tackled again in the next fiscal year.
Got
In
it.
essence, we approved it. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
We unencumbered the funds.
Got it.
And if we go forward, we'll have to hear another motion, reallocate funds in the budget for next fiscal year.
Okay, sure. And then, as far as the Earth Day, so the only funds, it's only the 1,800, because we were under budget on the Earth Day buy-in. So you're not allocating any more than the 1,800? Okay.
It's already continually peeled back from the original 15.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Clarification question. So if we have some cash left, there is no restriction on ordering more outreach material?
If we
If we have some
enough
more
time,
cash in May?
if we have enough time to have a motion and approve, then sure.
It's spent.
And spend, yes.
So that we should be looking for in the May meeting, not the June, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Just to clarify.
okay, any questions from the public?
Can I just say one more thing? I'm sorry, I just wanted to say that I'm glad to see that we're on track with the spending design.
I'm just looking at the numbers. So if all the reimbursements are approved tonight, so for the non-reimbursement, that leaves about 14,761. Does that sound right for your calculations?
14,979.35 for the items that I think we have to do.
Okay.
But I'm going to keep those, I don't want to prejudice the board, so I'm going to keep those.
I think it's good for people to know, if outside of reimbursements, how much they have for others.
Right.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other comment? Yes.
Yes, Dave Howson. For the last 2 to 3 months, I've been inquiring as to the availability of the check that was approved for $1,000 to the Friends of Oak Ridge. And to date, I haven't heard back, and I'm just concerned if there was a problem with the city. I'd like to address it with the city.
There was. Talk to me as a break, if you will, and I'll coordinate with you what I need. It's been rejected twice. Not that we can't save it still, but I'll need additional information from you to resubmit the application. And as you know, if you see, you have a copy of this. I am anticipating that we get that saved and that we get you the $1,000. It is a factor in a reduction of our available funds because the intention is to get you the $1,000.
Okay, I haven't heard back from the board, and when I acquired about $50,000.
Any other public comments? Yes, sir.
My name is Orlando, and I'm new in this neighborhood, and this is my first time.
Well,
So I came talking about money. Where does money come from?
The neighborhood council this year got $42,000 from the city. All the neighborhood councils get $42,000. Last year, we discovered that the previous treasurer had improperly spent about $27,000. We were able to recover those funds. So those were added as a special exception this fiscal year, added to our budget. So we have a little over $69,000 for this year. Next year, we'll be back down to whatever the city then allocates, anywhere between $37,000 and $42,000.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
any other questions for Andrew? Okay. All right, thank you.
And again, I remind the board, keep that spreadsheet handy as we go along tonight. Right there.
Are we done? All right, item 8, presentations from representatives of elected officials and government agencies. Mr. Cruz?
Hey everybody, I'm Colin Cruz, Senior Field Ethics Council Member, Mitchell Englander. I just got 2 quick things for y'all tonight. I want to remind you about the solid pancake breakfast coming up this Saturday, next Saturday, April 21st, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. in Devonshire Division. It's been on for 25 years. Fantastic fundraiser for Devonshire Division. I just encourage all of you to attend. It's always a lot of fun. And then a subject near and dear to my heart, about a week ago, we hosted a Homeless Connect Day in Chatsworth at Freedom Church. Saw a lot of you there, and a lot of you volunteered, and thank you all so much for showing up and volunteering. It was a fantastic event. We had, at last count, a little over 80 folks experiencing homelessness come through that day and receive services, sign up for services. We had our mobile shower there. They were able to get a shower. We had a whole platoon of barbers there giving out free haircuts. It was just a fantastic event. I don't really think it could have gone much better. We had music playing. It was kind of a festive atmosphere, which I thought was a nice little addition because these things obviously can be pretty serious sometimes. And we're looking forward to hosting the next one. LA Family Housing was very, very pleased with the turnout. They typically consider anything over 50 folks to be folks there for services to be a success. So since we got 80 and it was a relatively quick turnaround on the planning of the event, we were just thrilled with how it all came together. And again, thank you all on the board that showed up and volunteered. It was a really, really fantastic event. I think we were able to get a lot of people some help that they really need. Yes, ma'am.
How many homeless people would you say that attended this event?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
At last count, it was a little over 80.
80, okay.
But I haven't gotten the final numbers in from LA Family Housing. But at the end of the day, that day, they said a little over 80. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yes, ma'am.
Again, thank you. It was a great event. A lot of us were there. You said the next one, is Mitch going to do another one?
We are in the very early stages. I'm catching my breath for a second.
Oh, no. I was just surprised that he was going to do another one so soon.
Oh, well, I mean, I don't know when it's going to be. We would like to do another one this year. As you know, LA Family Housing typically does one once a month.
Yeah.
They're planned many, many months in advance.
Right.
So knock wood, we're going to have another one this year. I'm not really sure when. I don't think that summer is probably the best time since it's going to be so aggressively hot. But with if everything comes together, I know LA Family Housing is working on increasing the number of Connect Days that they do. So hopefully we'll have another one this year, which would be fantastic.
Yeah. That was great. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it was a really good event, and I didn't see any neighborhood councils there, but we have a homeless committee here, as you know, so I don't know if it's possible for us to, if we decide we want to participate. I mean, it's good to network and get to know other organizations. We can be more involved in the next event, I think that would be.
Yeah, absolutely. This one came together very quickly. There were some other NCs there. I know folks from Northridge West were there.
Chatsworth.
Chatsworth. The Kiwanis Club was there, grilling out hamburgers and hot dogs, which again just sort of added to the whole, kind of festival feel of it, which was really nice. As I was giving out flyers to folks promoting the event, frankly, the thing that brought a lot of people there is saying, we're cooking food, we're not just going to have pizza or whatever, we're having hamburgers and hot dogs, and that was a great thing that Kiwanis did for the event, and yeah, Nick from the Chatsworth Neighborhood Council was on the Kiwanis, he was there flipping hamburgers, so yeah.
So thank you, keep us in mind. The other question I had is, I saw the agenda of, I believe, Granada Hills, they were looking into specific locations where there is a talk of finding locations for either building housing or you know what I'm talking about? So what's going on with that as it pertains to Porter Ranch? Should we be thinking about these things at all?
Yeah, the council member joined with all the other city council on the 222 plan, which is everybody's committing to 222 units of supportive transitional housing in each council district. At our conversations with council meeting, when was that? 2 months ago, a month and a half ago? The conversation with council is something we put on about quarterly, where we bring together members of all the neighborhood councils in CD12 and discuss a topic, be it public works or homelessness was the last. And when the council member was at that meeting, he did ask the neighborhood councils kind of informally. He said, yeah, if you've got any ideas where something could go in your area, please bring them to us. It doesn't have to be 222 units in one spot necessarily. We could spread it out. But I mean, we are actively looking for places, and we'd love to have your input if there's somewhere in the area that you think would be a viable location for some sort of, transitional supportive housing.
Okay, so you were talking about permanent housing, not a shelter. You're talking about permanent supportive housing.
Well, yeah, basically, transitional stuff, yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to point out that the councilman also was at the Disabilities Town Hall last week, and related to what you're talking about, was interesting is all that the people that showed up wanted to talk about was the lack of affordable housing for people with disabilities. And we had a number of people who spoke up on the fact that on their disability pay, they started in apartments that were around $900 a month, and now they're being asked to pay over $1,600 a month. So a lot of that community is about to become homeless as well. And the councilman and the other members of the panel were talking about doing another follow-up town hall just to talk about that issue. So it's an issue that's hitting everybody very hard.
Absolutely.
All right.
Anybody else?
Thank you very much.
Thanks, y'all.
Good job.
Any other public official representative? Okay. Thank you. Item 9. Item 9 is general public comments on items not on the agenda. If you'd like to make a comment to the board, please step up to the mic and speak your piece. Ryan?
I wanted to thank you, as usual, for being animal-friendly. The vegan meals are so much appreciated. Not only are we acting on climate change, we're setting a good example for kids. Speaking of kids, did you notice when you entered today, look what it said, there was a sign, they're serving vegan meals for lunch every day here. Kids have a choice now. They've had Meatless Monday. The reason I'm late is I was talking to the school principal about it, and she was thrilled to hear that we're doing something too. She's going to try to stop by. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Board. Very quickly, we will be within 1 minute, I hope. A week ago today, the CPUC issued this notice. I'll be happy to leave this copy with you. What I'd like to ask is the board to have a response. We'd also like to see CP12 have a response as well as board of supervisors. Basically what happened, guys, is if you remember, there was a feasibility study that was supposed to be done about leave someone's future. And is it feasible for it to go away? What would be the impact? It was a fair question. We all participated in the meeting at the Northridge Women's Center. So an edict came down, maybe that's not the right word, an order came down that the CPUC put out for bid the modeling of a study. They claim, the CPUC, the ones that are supposed to be looking out for us, claim that nobody responded to the request for proposal. No university, no independent think tank, no impartial committee responded and was willing to do this. So it gets worse, guys. So what did the CPU decide to do? They said, aha, there is somebody that knows how to do this modeling, that knows how to do this investigation. Guess who that was? SoCal Gas.
No.
This is to determine the future viability of Aliso Canyon. So this goes well beyond the Fox Garden and Hen House. This now brings in the CPUC into questionable behavior. I think it would be appropriate for the board to respond to this with a letter. You guys have done a great job of that in the past. Again, CD12, I think that's something that you guys should jump on. Board of Supervisors, I wish you guys were here to put that in public record. This is disingenuous. So who can I leave this with in hopes that a motion for a letter comes to? Is that you, Assam? Gabriel? Thank you for your time. Exactly 2 minutes.
Any other comments? Yes.
My name is Shaki Bogosanian. I believe I emailed you, or I saw it, I'm not sure, but someone who works for the City of LA too, because I work for the City of LA in the planning department, and my daughters go to PRCS, and right now they're in elementary school, and they're in 3rd and 4th grade, and I was inquiring to see if it would be possible to request a public high school in our community. At the moment, if you ask anyone, they say that Chatsworth is not at capacity, so they're hoping that we're able to send our kids to Chatsworth. But I'm just afraid that by the time my daughters, for example, reach that age where they're going to move on to high school, it's going to be overcrowded there. And Granada, I know, is an option, but I believe it's on a lottery system as well. And based on my colleagues in the planning department, I know that at one point in time, it wasn't a master plan for a high school to be built. But here at PRCS, they ended up limiting it to just elementary and 8th grade because they were under the assumption that the demographics would be more elderly community. But obviously, as everyone can see, it's all young families here, and the higher classes at PRCS are currently like 2 or 3 classes, but the lower grades are all 5 to 6 classes. We're already building a new building. So anyway, I've reached out to Mitch Englander's office, and I think the answer is reaching out to LAUSD, which I'm already kind of looking to see what legwork I could do as far as that goes, but I was wondering if the board can be helpful in any way.
You want me to take this?
Well, it's not public comments, we're not really allowed to address it. But if we are able to say something, share what we know, I mean, I don't know.
Well, we have a choice, so if you want to say something, but let's not make it into discussion.
Yeah.
I sit on the board of the school as well as here. We've had numerous discussions with Scott Schmolson's office and the USD, the developer and the specific plan. At this time, I mean, unless the community has just a huge uproar, there's no time.
Okay, so I'm ready to do the legwork to get everyone together, because I know a ton of families that are interested. So I guess I'm going the same route. Okay, so I'll be in touch.
Sure. Do you want to share?
Something else to consider.
Yes, go ahead. So, we have a schools and education committee, and stakeholders are welcome to be part of that committee.
Okay.
And so David and I are the board members on that committee, so we can exchange information,
Sure.
let you know when the next meeting is coming. We'd like to put it up for discussion, and then go through the committee level. That's how it would
Okay,
start.
sounds good.
I do want to make you and everyone aware that as of last week, there's discussion about adding a second charter school to the Chatsworth High campus. So that will, if in fact that goes through, that will, I'm sure, initially chew into whatever available seating they have there. Something else for sure.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's definitely a discussion, open for the community. It has been, so.
Okay, I'll get both of your information and then I'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Maureen?
This will take a second. I read today that in Browns Canyon, the construction workers broke a gas line at SoCal Gas and tons of came out. So just to be aware. Besides that, I found oil spots all over my car last week, but anyway. Yes?
You found what, Maureen?
Oil spots all over my car.
Thank you for that, Maureen. Please, come on up, of course.
My name is Shirley. I have only two things. One is the YMCA, they cooperate with Kaiser Hospital.
Can you lower the mic a little bit so people can hear you better? It's all right, yeah. There you go.
YMCA cooperate with Kaiser's hospital. So every 2 months, they have a seminar regarding the health and medical issue. Last time is cancer. And I found this special. May 10, 12:30 to 1:30, they have a free seminar to public, to all the community public, and also the lunch will be served. And then I think important that is all the doctors, they really tell us that issue is very sensitive. So another one, I put some of the bad voices regarding the gas facility. And this will be.
Thank you. Any other comment? Yes, sir. Come on up.
Hi, committee. My name is Blake Arias, and I'm also about a few years new to the neighborhood. And I don't know how often it's been addressed here, but I was wondering, has anyone proposed anything or is anything set in motion about the constant racing, the donuts on the road, everything tearing up the roads in the back of our homes? And I just don't see any increased maybe police presence or something like that. Just wanted to get that out there again. It's been
Safety committee.
Gabriel, you want to answer?
Yes, yes, and yes. We are working closely with LAPD. We have actually had more officers up here patrolling the area. We are working on projects to put rumble strips on the intersection of Mason and Cessna. The school actually accepted it and said that would be great. And we're just making sure everybody around the vicinity is fine with it. And then we'll probably go ahead with CD12 and get England's office installing them. Regarding racing, that will solve some of the donuts from racing in the intersection. And at nighttime between 12 and 3, we do have more LAPD presence now as well.
Oh, really?
Patrolling Cessna, Mason, and
also Cessna and Reseda.
Yes,
Yeah.
So we do have it, they're aware of it. If you have any questions or anything, you can always email me.
Okay.
And forward it to the captain, depending on what the issue is with SLOs and et cetera. So we are working closely with them to resolve it.
All right, thank you for hearing.
Plus, the Devonshire have an app, the Devonshire Police Station, so you could immediately also.
They have an app too?
Yeah, the LAPD Devonshire. So you could report it through the app right away.
Nice. Yeah. Thanks
So
for
that
that.
would help too.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Yes, come on up.
Hi, good evening. I'm Nikki Lloyd from Solid, also known as Orders of Law Enforcement in Devonshire. We are having our 25th annual all-you-can-eat pancake breakfast on Saturday, 21st. Colin had touched upon it already. It's from 8 to 11 a.m. It's $9 per person, and children under 3 eat free. From this year, you can actually purchase the tickets online. So if you go to our website, you can read all about it there, like the flyers on the table. The same day, we're actually having Devonshire's open house, and the tours start around from 9 a.m. and they end at 1. And we will also have volunteer, all our Devonshire volunteer organization tables, groups tables on that day as well. So if you're interested, we'd like you to come up and visit the tables and find out what we all do. And if you're interested in chocolate chip pancakes, we have those. They're very popular. And also, just tomorrow night, plug in Chippa Cop, starting tomorrow night, 5 to 9 p.m. at the Crane Jumper in Northridge.
What is it?
Chippa Cop is a fundraiser for the Special Olympics. But what we do is the senior lead officers, the officers act as your hosts, and all the tips that they receive as hosts will be donated to the Special Olympics. So if you do not plan to cook tomorrow night, please come and join and help the Special Olympics. It's at the Northridge Mall. There's a Crane Jumper, I'm sorry, at the Northridge Mall, and all the flyers are on the table. Thank you so much, and thank you always for your support for Demonstration.
Of course.
Thank you. All right, any other comments? Okay, thank you, everybody. Let's move to item 10, and may we start from Becky's side? Would you like to start? Any comment, anything you'd like to? I'm good. You good? Okay, Hassan?
I just wanted to appreciate all the effort that has been going on for the Earth Day, Susan and the team. It should be a wonderful event, and we would love to see the community coming. Emails have gone out, notices have been posted, but please tell all your friends to join, and hopefully it will be a fun day for everybody.
Thank you. I'm good. You good? Andrew? Okay, Jennifer?
I just want to give an appreciation and my gratitude to Susan for coordinating Earth Day. It should be a fabulous event, and I know it's a lot of work, so thank you very much, Susan, and everyone who's been working with you. Amen.
Just to add to what Colin was saying, we had a great day at the Connect Day, and it was very impressive the way it was organized, and it was helping everybody, so it worked out great. For the safety, you will notice from the safety committee, I'll report that there will be increased LAPD presence, because now all the ordinances and all that in effect for the laser guns to be used. So hopefully that will reduce amount of speeds. I don't know how many tickets have been issued this month.
How many laser detectors?
Laser detectors.
Laser
guns. Yes, go ahead. Well, it's a gun. It's a laser, actually. It's a light. It's not even a laser. It's a light. It's a laser. So hopefully that will improve on the safety in our area.
Thank you. Jason?
All right, just a couple cool things. We had 2 meetings with Rex and Parks. Our second meeting, we met them at Limekiln Canyon. We're working with the council district, and I thank Jesse for setting that meeting up, because we've got some good results. There was an arbor that had fallen in Limekiln Canyon, covered with graffiti. We got that thing taken out. We also get a lot of complaints on Reseda, where Palisade Parks wraps around all the dumping on the side of the hill. Got all that cleaned up. I'm sure there's been some other things, but basically all the things that we found wrong with the park, we brought it to their attention, and now we've established a good working relationship with Jorge, who's the park supervisor. So that's some good news, and I think at some point after Earth Day, I mean, we have a big Earth Day cleanup that we've are partnering with Rex and Parks on, so I'd like to look at sending a thank you for that. And then, one other thing. Oh, no, I think that's it.
Susan?
Okay, mine's going to be a little long. I have a lot of committees. So, Earth Day, we, at our table, we're going to have a giant spinner. And depending on what you land on, you may get a visor or a hat, or these all have quarter-inch neighborhood council on them, or a flashlight. We also have T-shirts, magnets, pens, things like that. Jason and Hassan are going to be making popcorn for us. We bought a popcorn maker. We also have a photo booth that is going to be powered by a solar and battery powered unit, because this is Earth Day. We don't do diesel. We're going to have a sound system. We're going to be giving away SoCal 350 is going to be raffling off a battery powered lawnmower.
And it's just going to be a lot of fun. We have a lot of nonprofits and environmental organizations that are going to be there, and it's going to be lots of fun. So that's Earth Day. Oh, and the kids are going to get these cute little passports, and they're going to go to each table and get a sticker. Like Puerto Rico Chamber Council has, we bought stickers, and then SoCal 350, and every organization, I've emailed all of them, I've made stickers for some of them, and they each get a sticker, so that'll make them go to every single table, so that'll be fun. Okay, next, we won't have a sustainability committee meeting, because on the 17th, we're going to have that AQMD meeting, so no sustainability committee meeting in April. We have the ad hoc committee meeting on trying to get funding for fence line it's going to be Monday, April 23rd at the library from 5 to 7. And then for the homeless committee, our next meeting is Thursday, May 3rd. We're starting to meet at the Pillars Cafe at Shepherd Hills Church. The reason we're meeting there is because we're starting a Clean Streets, Clean Starts program starting May 8th. In Porter Ranch. That's going to be Tuesdays and Thursdays from 7 to 11 in the morning for 6 weeks. We have a group of 6 or 7 homeless people who are going to be working, cleaning up the streets, cleaning up Tampa, cleaning up Pine Needles, doing the tree wells. They're going to be working. Then they will get a $25 or $35 a card for food, either from Walmart or Ralph's or something like that. And that is going to be our Clean Streets, Clean Starts program. That is what we're doing to address the homeless issue here in Porter Ranch. It's going to be going on for 6 weeks. Again, if you're interested, please come to the May 3rd meeting, 5 o'clock p.m. at Pillars Cafe. This is just a really good program. We gave Don Larson's nonprofit $5,000 to kick this off a couple months ago, and this is what we're going to be doing. We only have, again, like 6 or 7 people in this first program, and so we probably have money left over to do another one in a few weeks. So again, I've seen a lot of chatter on Facebook, people complaining about the homeless, but if you really want to do something about it, please come and join our committee. We are actually doing something tangible about it instead of just complaining about it on Facebook.
Susan, can I ask you something about the Clean Streets, Clean Starts program? You said that you've got 6 people ready to go. If I've been, I've been just on the border there. There's been a couple people that I've done a little bit of outreach with.
Hold on 1 second. Anybody need to use the microphone? Just.
My question was about Clean Streets, Clean Starts. You said you had 6 people. I'm assuming that there are homeless people ready to go. If I had a couple people to send your way, I don't have Don Larson's number. I looked for it. Can I call you? Can I have you come to this meeting?
Call me and we'll connect. We're actually, Laura Rathbone and I will probably be doing intake the week before, trying to get people, because what we're going to do is we're going to interview each one of them and make sure, are you going to commit to this, make sure they're clean, etc. But if you have recommendations, let's connect.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't need it. So we do have, there is a limit. I think Don can handle about 10 people to max. And Susan, she hit on everything. Only thing, just so you know, the homeless that do show up, they're ready to work. They get a very nice breakfast, they're fed, so they're ready, they're energized. So they're fed before, and then they have the voucher, like Susan said, to get food afterwards. So they're definitely going to be taken care of while they take care of our community. And we're very excited for this.
All right. I'd like to make a few comments. First, on the Earth Day, I cannot tell you how much work goes into that event, and she's a great advocate for the program, and the board should really do everything we can to support this effort and be there and make sure that we are very well represented at this event. I will be there in the morning to set up, and my kids will be there because I told them to. And we'll work with you. I am bringing my childhood out of the vault. As I mentioned to you, we're going to set up a table for kids to make paper kites, the way I used to make when I was a kid, with just an 8.5 by 11 paper and thread. You can make a kite that actually flies. We just need breeze. So if there's breeze, they will fly. Kids will love it. So So my kids are practicing because they still don't know how to do it. But we're going to try to do that. We're going to have it as a fun event, and kids are the focus of this. Education happens through them, so we're too old to learn new things. They are not. So, well, speak for myself. So I want to bring that up, and I really hope you tell your neighbors, tell your friends, come, have food, have fun, and leave whenever you want, and that's the end of it. It's no big deal. Yes?
One thing, we're going to have CD12 will be there as well.
I sure hope so, yes.
One more thing I forgot, Lane. Lane brought this to our attention. We're going to have free Subway sandwiches. I think they're turkey, ham, or veggie. But also follow your heart vegan food will also be there. Because again, this is Earth Day and we're moving towards being more sustainable. And thank you, Lane. She is actually picking that up for us. So I just wanted to recognize you.
Great job, Susan.
I'm sorry.
It's the park right here on Cessna and Holly Burnson Park.
Cessna and
Rinaldi.
Porter Ranch.
Porter Ranch Drive. If you're driving on Cessna, it's this big park that's right there on the corner of Cessna and Porter Ranch Drive.
Across from the Renaissance.
That's
my house.
Sorry, the one thing I forgot, the event, can I just quickly mention?
Sure.
Okay, so the following Saturday, we have our Earth Day cleanup, which YMCA did this last year, but Beautification is joining up with them. Northridge West is involved. It's going to be a massive cleanup.
Council.
CD12? Yes.
And YMCA.
The council district, everybody's getting involved in this event. We've been planning it. I took Susan on the last meeting. We're all excited. It's going to be a big event. We're working on cleaning all the graffiti it goes all the way from Rinaldi all the way down to Chatsworth. It's a lot of graffiti, a lot of cleanup, and so I encourage everybody to come. It's going to be in the morning at 9 a.m. We have a motion we're going to discuss about this, but it's going to be a lot of fun. Bring the kids and get your dirty clothes and give back to the community. So just want to mention that event. It's on Saturday from 9 till noon. And the meeting place is going to be the In Christ Church, which is right across the street from Limekiln Canyon Park, which is on the corner of Corbin and Rinaldi.
I don't want to get into discussion, so...
No. Question.
Okay, the lady over there had a question first.
I haven't been by the park lately, but parking, do we park on the street?
Oh, yeah.
Usually on the street.
Earth Day. Is
Oh, Earth Day.
parking is okay?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, well, it's allowed last year, we'll do it.
I don't know.
It'll be fine.
Yes, we did it last year.
It's
It was
fine
fine.
last year.
Quick question.
Where's Palisades Park?
Palisades Park is where, on the way to Castle Bay, you make a right, and then it wraps around.
You're talking about Braymore.
People call it Braymore. It's
Yeah.
actually Palisades Park.
Please, and more trash cans, Colin Cruz.
Okay, I need to, a couple more comments. Braymore is a problem since it's been mentioned. We have to do something about it. It seems to attract a lot of trash, paper and those on two-leg too. So we need to find a way to address Braymore. It's just hidden. It's ridiculous what's happening in it.
I brought that up with Rex and Parks.
Okay, next week there is a panel meeting of the Health Study Advisory. While Dr. Mandela is here, he and I are the community representatives on the panel. I personally am going to be in Nashville, Tennessee that day, all 3 days next week, so I won't be there. So Susan is going to sit in my seat to just give me some feedback when we come back. But obviously Dr. Mandela will be there, I'm assuming. So that's good, and we'll see what it is that they want to discuss. And finally, I want to say I received an email today on May 8th, which is a Tuesday, I believe. The Energy Reliability Group was going to have its meeting for this year at the same place at AQMD in Diamond Bar. And that's the all-day event that happens. So we will advertise it. We'll put it up but I wanted everybody to know about that here today. You can announce that, but it's May 8th, and it's going to be the energy reliability meeting in Diamond Park. And that's all. Okay? Did I miss anything that I told anybody I missed? No? Thank you. All right, we're doing well, 7:10, 10 minutes ahead of schedule. Item 11, Jason.
Okay. So, I don't know if you guys are familiar, but there is something called budget advocates. And budget advocates, so neighborhood council, essentially our job is, we're part of the city, trying to bring more resources to our community. Budget advocates look at the whole budget, look at individual city departments, and they issue a white paper. So the white paper has been issued now, and they ask the neighborhood council support the white paper. So I just highlighted a few of the important things that I thought related to what we do in neighborhood councils. I didn't read all of it, but I read much of it. And I encourage people to read the white paper. You can just Google it, and it's under budget advocates. But there's a summary for each department. If there's any departments that you're working with, having frustrations with, you can go and see it. There's great recommendations. But some of the things that they were recommending, monthly town hall meetings on weekdays and weekends, making it more accessible to people in the community. This is an important thing. Developing a city infrastructure plan. Also, the liability issues within the city. The city's getting sued, for many different things, and they don't really have a way of addressing that or curbing that, mitigating that. Setting up benchmarks for efficiencies in city services. That's one of the recommendations. Also, bringing in outsourcing outside contractors to start the sidewalk repairs. This is a long-going issue we've been trying to get done, and the city hasn't really done much in ways of sidewalk repair except next to their properties. So the recommendation was to bring 50% of the people outsourced, and then 50% from the city, and then weigh those against to see what's the most efficient way to spend the taxpayer money. And then one of the most important things, hire a city manager, independent city manager, and to pass a balanced budget. That was the main complaint in the white paper, is that the budget isn't balanced. We're running a structural deficit, and if we keep passing the buck to future generations, this is the main problem. So the CIS is for approval of a community impact statement in support of Council File 180600 if amended, meaning to take on the recommendations within the white paper. And that's pretty much...
And the language of the
is here.
council file is here.
That's why I put CIS text is here. So what I did is, rather than just leaving that, I put some of the key points from the white paper in there, so when it goes to the council, they can see, oh yes, we want monthly town, et cetera, et cetera.
But to be clear, so that everybody knows, the CIS language is that.
That's the language, yeah.
Okay.
Right here. The Porter Ranch neighborhood supports the recommendation of the white paper.
Okay.
So with that,
a little bit discussion. Anybody would like to comment on it? Go ahead.
Okay, so the items you listed 1 through 7. So item 3, each department and each division have the risk management already, and there is identified at least one person, which is known as the PMK, the person most knowledgeable, which represents the city for that specific lawsuit or that specific claim. So this one is already established. Item 4.
I think the Office Liability Task Force, does the city attorney have an Office Liability Task Force?
Yes, and then under them all the attorneys and then PMKs. Like I personally am the PMK for the street lamp. And there is almost 100 people of us. So this already well covered. Number 4, there is benchmarks for efficiency and reports. A lot of these are published on the lacity.org, and these get reported periodically to the people. Like when we did the CD12 offsite, All the departments gave in exact numbers, and each month we got to one council district, and it's open for the public. So all these benchmarks and efficiencies and all that, you can find it on the lacity.org. Number 5, there is already a program for sidewalk repair. It's called the 50/50, and in which you can even report it and ask for it on the LA 311. So that one is already established.
This is different.
The fact is, he's pulling the stuff out of the budget advocate's white paper. We didn't do the white paper.
I know we didn't do it.
According to the white paper.
Yes.
But this is talking about something different. The outsourcing, what it's saying is to bring in private contractors. What you're referring to is the program, the sidewalk repair program, where the owner pays 50 and then the 50, that's the 50/50.
No, the owner brings the contractor from an approved list within the city. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Okay.
So, and then 6, no comment, and 7, no comment.
Yeah. Why not that one?
Okay, any other comment to Jason? Basically, what we're voting on is we're satisfied with the language that's in the motion to submit under the community impact statement. That's what we're voting on. If you want to modify that language, please speak up. Otherwise, we're going to vote on it. David? Jason?
Before
David has a question.
Do you want to modify 3, 4, and 5, or you want to leave it as it is?
I would leave it as it is. I drew it right from the white paper. This information comes about when the budget advocates meet with city departments directly, and so during those meetings they come up with these different points. So perhaps it's not robust enough in their opinion or something. I don't know. So if the board wishes to strike some of them, then somebody can make them.
Leave it up.
No? Yes.
The town hall meetings on weekends and weekdays, is that to talk about the budget process? I'm not clear.
Yes,
The
yes.
budget process, where it is?
It is in the context of the budget, yes,
Okay.
yes.
And that's just because we feel like people don't have enough opportunity to really know what's going on in the
To
budget
weigh in
and stuff?
on the budget, so the community could come to a budget meeting and weigh in on it, that's on a Saturday or in the evening, rather than having to come to the Budget and Finance Committee downtown on a Tuesday morning.
So how do they
That's the point.
determine, like, where that town hall is? I'm a little confused.
Well, they haven't done it yet, that's what
Oh, just like an idea?
the budget advocates are recommending that these things be implemented, so the public
Okay,
can have
okay.
more weigh-in on it, but that's not to say that they're going to listen.
Right, I understand. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Would you like to make a motion?
Sure. Okay, so I'll make a motion to file a community impact statement in support of Council File 18-0600, if amended, and the CIS text will be as listed here.
I'll second the motion.
Good, second. Okay. Public comment? No public comment. Board comments? Discussion? No further comments? Call the vote.
Was this put together by a committee or?
The budget advocates.
No, I know, but were these highlighted? Because I don't feel comfortable voting on things that I haven't read and understand and just highlight key points. I'm not sure.
No, it was not through a committee. I wrote that as, I'm a budget representative with Andrew for this neighborhood council. I went to the last meeting, and when they were preparing the white paper, and I read the white paper myself, and I pulled out these key points myself as things that I saw pertain to what we do as a council.
Can I ask you,
Directly from the
item
white paper.
number 6, hire an independent city manager to oversee all city departments. Are we recommending that they hire another person?
That's from the white paper. If you look in there, one of the recommendations, they had 10 recommendations, was this one here in that, so.
That's the only thing I agree with.
That was my question. Hire someone to do what? I mean,
Yeah.
they don't have enough
It's-
people already.
No, what the concept is, an independent city manager would look at it from a totality perspective and see ways that there's overlap, was one of the main things that they realized. There's overlap in departments, so having an independent city manager could help bridge some of those overlaps, make things more efficient. That was the recommendation from the budget advocates.
Hassan, if I can elaborate. What it is, it would be the equivalent to what we have the Deputy Mayor Romero doing, which she oversees all the public works. So this person would be the city manager from that portion, so that goes, okay, this department is doing this wrong, this is not right, this is all that. So it's
to oversee all the departments within the city.
it's a parallel to the Deputy Mayor Romero is what she's doing right now.
Is it a deputy mayor position?
No, they want it as it's called as independent city manager. So probably it's one of those odd positions that come in as
Not part of the mayor's office,
consultant,
not part of the council's
outsourced.
independent city manager. Other cities have that.
EWP and oversight person?
No. I think the only item that makes sense in here is number 6.
Number what?
Number 6. That's the only item I agree with.
You agree with that?
Yeah, there is nothing
no,
wrong with it. Yeah, there is nothing wrong with it because this way you have the city staff on one side, the independent person, and then you could evaluate the two views. The rest, it's really, especially 3, 4, 5, I don't agree totally with it.
Well, okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the support of the budget advocate's recommendations and to submit the CIS as stated. If there's no further comment on it, please call the vote.
All right, David?
Yes.
Hassan?
Abstain.
Susan?
Yes.
Alex is absent. Jason?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
Becky?
Abstain.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Hassan?
No.
Gabriel, yes. Isam?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. Item 12. Who would like to? This is Jason and David.
We're going to be tabling this motion.
Okay.
Thank God you had something to say about that.
That's
Sorry,
okay.
very passionate.
Item 12 is being tabled.
Yes.
Okay. Item 13. That is you, Susan.
Okay,
Would you like the microphone?
sure. Okay, so just to give you some background on this motion, Assembly Bill 617 requires the California Air Resources Board, which is called CARM, in consultation with the air districts, that's AQMD, and other stakeholders to select priority locations around the state with the highest cumulative exposure burden for criteria pollutants and toxic air contaminants for the deployment of community air monitoring systems and/or preparation of community emissions reductions programs. The law establishes several criteria for community selection, including prioritization of the disadvantaged communities and sensitive receptor locations. CARB must select an initial list of communities by October 1st, 2018. We also have a deadline of, I want to say, April 30th, initial community list from air districts submitted to CARB. So this motion is to approve the submittal of a self-nomination to CARB for Porter Ranch to attain a permanent independent fence line air monitoring system under AB 617. So again, the ad hoc committee has been trying to get funding for a fence line system. And a fence line system obviously would be around the facility and let us know when the methane, is increasing, and possibly other air contaminants. Benzene has been mentioned as well. So this is just one avenue to pursue to get funding for that under AB 617. AB 617 has funding for the first year. It does not have funding for subsequent years. That's going to be left up to the discretion of the state legislatures. So we're going to try to push as much as we can to get Porter Ranch included in that first year. That being said, we know going in, we're going to have some challenges because we are not considered a disadvantaged community economically, okay? But we will still try our best. The draft is in the packet. It requires a one-page, document. So I've done a one-page document here. It talks about community nomination. Obviously, deployment of the air monitoring campaign is what we want. I have a description of our community, description of the pollution concern, and just our pitch to be in that first year to be funded for a fence line system. So that's what this is, and we're voting on our neighborhood council to send this letter to CARB and to AQMD to advocate as a self-identification. So the other way is for AQMD to recommend us. We don't know if they're recommending us, so we really do need to do both ways. I mean, we hope that South Coast AQMD would recommend us, but we also need to do this community self-recommendation. We need to do some of this advocacy ourselves. So that is what the motion is about.
And
And
you bought $100 stamps for...
oh, thank you. That's another motion. Are we going to do that right now?
That's the next one. That's the next one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's all right. You threw me off there, Ed. So this is just for the board to make a recommendation because we do represent the community and we would like a fence line system.
All right.
How much do they cost? $1 million.
More than our budget.
Oh, maybe let me, one more bit of thing, sorry, but so there's temporarily a methane monitor in my backyard. But that's temporary. That is just Argo Scientific has that there. Nobody is paying for it at this point. We don't know how much longer it's going to be there. That's one backyard, and that's not a fence line system. That's one backyard. So that's where we are temporarily.
That's a needle in the haystack system.
Yes.
As part of your draft, and maybe a way to help enhance the possibility of success, I would like to suggest in paragraph 2, line 3, right in the middle, the sentence, all sensitive receptor locations are 1 to 5 miles. I'd like to propose, since we mentioned Castle Bay Imports and PRCS, and the schools that are inside our technical boundaries, I'd like to highlight the fact that air from within our boundaries, no matter what the gas company says, doesn't stay here.
Right.
There are a whole host of schools that I think we should include. They're the next level out. Truthfully, they're the level out to within 5 miles. That'd be Germain, Sierra Canyon, Beckford, Topeka, Darby, possibly Granada Hills Charter High School, I believe it's within. Granada Hills Elementary might also be in. And then there's a host of religious schools.
Yeah, St.
Temple of Bachelon, Church of Shepherd of the Hills, the other church across from Shepherd, I'm sorry. In Christ, I'm sure they do, and so on. I'd like to kind of highlight that we are in essence the gateway between this polluter and, well, 1.8 million people. And monitoring this area isn't just about Porter Ranch, it's about a much greater population. Hopefully that will help our chances. You made a mention that there's a socioeconomic
consideration.
I certainly think that you should, or that we should enumerate that San Fernando Valley contains members of all socioeconomic classes. So we're kind of covering our bases with the areas they're looking at.
Got it. The area just doesn't stay within Porter Ranch.
We have many areas in the Central Valley that are oppressed socioeconomic status.
Okay.
Can you not say that that's...
Just a second. We'll get to the public comment on this motion, no doubt. Just a second. We're just having a discussion before we make a motion. So, when you make a motion, if you're satisfied with that suggestion, if you make it as an amended with these additions. But before we go there, any other discussion items from the board? Okay. Can I have a motion?
Okay. I move to approve the submittal of a self-nomination to CARB for Porter Ranch to obtain a permanent independent fence line care monitoring system under AB 617 with the draft as amended to include the schools of Germain, Sierra Canyon, Beckford, Topeka, Darby, Granada Hills Charter High School, Granada Hills Elementary, the Temple School, which I will get the exact name of, Shepherd of the Hills, preschool, I believe, in daycare, in Christ, I believe daycare, preschool, and mention that the greater population of the San Fernando Valley that has social justice status is impacted by the air coming off of Elizabeth.
Got a second? All right. Public comment, would you please step?
Sorry.
Just a second.
There has to be, we have to amend, technically speaking, have to amend again. I apologize.
Why?
Because Gabe just mentioned Nobel. Can we maybe, why don't you? Why don't you do what you did and put, and any, I mean, just a blanket, and any other school within 5 miles.
There you go, 5 mile radius.
There you go.
Good.
Thank you.
At the 5 mile radius.
Okay. And that's a seconded motion?
Oh, okay, I'll second it.
We'll assume it's a seconded motion.
Yes.
Public comment, please come up to the mic and speak on this motion.
Yes. So the 5 miles, any school in the 5 mile radius kind of covers what I said, but if you wanted to be a little bit more specific, don't forget about Northridge Academy High School and Valley Alternative. Reason being is this. Those are overflow schools that reach all the way into your lowest socioeconomic. I know that Northridge Academy is more than 60% Title I. I'm not sure about Valley Alternative, but it might be. That's where you're going to get your socioeconomic.
Thank you.
And it's not social justice, it's social economic.
Thank you.
This motion is imperative. We desperately need an efficient methane monitoring system. As you all know, I co-chair the Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council Sustainability Committee, and I've attended every single ad hoc at even minutes. So I know how badly we need this. 20 to 25% of kids in Los Angeles County have asthma. And yes, the lesser income communities do deserve it, but we are the nation's largest methane release. We have the media coverage. We're going to set the example so others can benefit from this. So thank you for your consideration.
Lauren?
Hi, just quick public comment. There was an actual memo that went out from Scott Schmarlson's office that actually listed all schools within a 5 mile radius, so I'll get my hands on that and I'll email that.
Thank you.
Hello. So it's called independent. How's it independent, Susan? When they say an independent monitoring system, independent of what? How?
Meaning funded by them, but a contractor would come in and do it. Like the Torrance Refinery is going to be requests for bids.
Or like the Richmond thing?
Yes, exactly. AQMD doesn't run it. They don't have the capacity to do that.
Gotcha.
That makes it independent.
All right. What do they test for?
We don't know yet.
Does that have to be determined?
This is every fence line is going to test for something different.
Okay,
That's
so
part of, if you get selected, then that's a whole other process of saying we want this and this and this.
Okay, great.
That is not determined ahead of time.
So that's not part of this conversation. Okay, fine. So also in the proposed letter, you mentioned 83 or 8,500 households. SoCal Gas themselves, you said 8,300 people were relocated.
Okay, I'm trying to find that.
It's up in the beginning, towards the beginning.
More than 8,000 residents.
Yes.
Should that be more than 8,000?
Households, according to the SoCal Gas brochure that they distributed at the PRNC.
That makes a difference, more than 8,000 households.
So that's like 23,000 people, whatever the per capita turns out to be. Yes, it definitely has to be much more than methane, and I think we are all well aware. And also, that also spills over to the ad hoc committee looking at the AQMD thing. It's got to be more than just methane, because we know that that's not the problem. And also, keep in mind, whatever system we put up, even CARB, there's been this disconnect we all know about, that all the
thousands of air tests that everyone says that these various government agencies say they've done. They keep coming up with everything's fine in the air, but we know that there's a health problem. So they have a monitoring system set up to further reinforce that the air is fine, but actually do more harm than good in a lot of ways. People's, damage cases against SoCal Gas would be another feather in the hat that says, hey, there's another monitoring system that says there's nothing wrong in Porter Ranch. So you have to be very careful what that monitors. Thank you.
Thank you.
For your draft, talking about the socioeconomic disadvantagement, you get to combine your different committees and talk about the growing homelessness population that is also going to be impacted.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Would anybody want to amend anything?
In addition to what I already said.
We have a motion.
I just have a question. Is Cal State North included in that? List of schools?
Because it's 5 miles.
5 mile radius, isn't it?
For that, yes.
Susan, is this going to be publicly available data? You know? Is it going to be broadcast live online? Because when I had the car air monitoring system in my backyard for over a year, that's all we know about it. It was there. We don't know the results. We don't know what happened. We don't know what they did with the data.
17.
Let me say, this is the very early stage of this entire process. They're just taking, first, AQMD is going to recommend communities to the Air Resources Board, which then goes through the funding process under AB 617 to see who gets what monitor, and nobody's talking anything yet about what monitor it is and where, it's just,
And
this
where,
is,
what's moving monitor,
Yeah.
but I just think that raises a really good point, and I think that, but you definitely want to be included, and I think that's, worth.
And at the ad hoc meeting, AQMD mentioned, if you've been an environmentalist and you go to some of these other meetings like Stand LA, we are not the only problem community. We did have the biggest methane blowout in U.S. history, yes, but there are over 200 some communities in the state that are going to be putting in for this, okay? We're not the only game in town.
we're just saying, trying to stay on the map. That's-
Yeah. So we will do the best, we can, but there's a lot of polluted communities out there.
I'm curious as to why this is a socioeconomic issue. Why this isn't a people issue.
This is under AB 617.
I get it. Do you know why they would say that? Why the people who are socioeconomically deprived should have more rights than we should? Or do they want us to pay for our own?
But let her finish. Go ahead.
Historically are in lower socioeconomic areas and have more environmental issues such as lead and things like that. So therefore, the legislature has put the priority on that. Certainly, in this situation, it's an exception, but that's the answer.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second, we had our discussion, no further discussion. Would you call the vote?
All right, David.
Absolutely.
That's a yes. Susan?
Yes.
Alex is absent. Jason?
Abstain?
Andrew?
Absolutely.
Becky?
Yes.
Jennifer?
You betcha.
Hassan?
Yes.
Gabriel? Yes. Tom? Yes. And motion passes.
Thank you. It's 7:40. So we're 10 minutes early, and that's good because we have work afterwards. I know we go to a break, and I know a lot of people leave at the break, so before we go, that's why I wanted to bring that up.
Okay, yes.
Well, it's a motion coming up, but we need your support on this AB 617, and we've put things over there to help you put your vote in also, so please stick around. We'll be right back. Item 14, Andrew and Gabe.
This is a discussion of possible action PRNC to identify what we want to see as far as the $1 million SC AQMD health study, and present those recommendations to the Health Study Technical Advisory Group at the first meeting to be held on April 17, 2018. I presented this motion as a way for the council and the community to have another voice, if you will, that the council itself, in its official capacity, could put forth whatever the board chooses as for items that we want to see be represented and handled within the $1 million health study. We have our two community advisors, our representatives, our president, and Dr. Jeffrey Mordella, who's in the audience. Thank you. But this was a discussion to see if we wanted to do something in an official capacity from the board.
Floor is open for discussion first.
Just a question, if you vote for the motion, would it have any implication in terms of legality or conflicts of any sort on that? Certainly, we have had some discussions about who should be part of what. It's going to be clear that we would get put the board in any sort of hard position with any legal challenges of any sort.
Any conflict of interest matters are individual matters between the board member himself or herself and the city attorney's office. So the board doesn't pass judgment on whether a certain board member has a conflict or doesn't. It's the individual board member's prerogative to discuss the matter with city attorney and decide whether to be part of this discussion or recuse himself or herself. If there's a conflict that got ignored, we could have ramifications later on in terms of nullifying whatever decision we make, but that is the responsibility of each individual board member to make that call. So whoever's at the table discussing is satisfied that he or she can have this discussion and vote, and that's a personal choice. Any discussion on the topic? Yes, Susan.
I'm unclear. So didn't AQMD have a list of what they could cover for the $1 million? Right? Didn't they present us with something?
They presented their feedback that was obtained from the meeting they held here. That's about it. The HS tag is now tasked with reviewing what the public wanted and figuring out what the path is going to look like. From my perspective, there's nothing truly has happened in terms of the planning of what the health study looks like.
Weren't there two options they presented to us in December during the meeting?
There were. I don't recall what those two were. My personal view is that our elected representatives are going to go in there and kind of pick apart, if you will, or itemize, either based on medical knowledge, what the health study should look like. I trust that Dr. Nordella will go in and regulate from a medical standpoint what a proper health study looks like, regardless of cost, and try to conform that to the funding that's currently allocated for this.
And if I may add to it a little bit, Susan, we got to understand the separation here a little bit. Dr. Nordella and I are not representing the PRNC.
Right.
We were asked to recommend community representatives. So the PRNC as a body, and that's, Andrew brought this motion to me. I thought, it's a great idea, not only for the board as a body to express its opinion about it, whatever it is, but it's also an additional chance for stakeholders to chime in on that decision and put in their 2 cents. They had the chance with the AQMD within the AQMD format. This is another opportunity for stakeholders to tell us what matters to them, how they would like us to advocate on their behalf as a body, and submit that as a comment to the AQMD. Remember, that process is always a public process. And so we should take advantage of who we are as a body and make a statement, whatever that statement is.
Got it. Okay, I understand it.
Yes, we're not constrained by what they thought could be done with the 1 million. We should express our opinion regardless of what they put out. So, this is a chance for the board, and I put 20 minutes on it because I'd like to encourage, public comment so we can capture and make sure we have a statement. If we vote on a motion like that, we have a statement that has a collective input from the stakeholders as well. So, I'm not going to stick to the format religiously, so any pressing board comment right now on this? Okay, I'm going to open it for stakeholder comments. Please come up to the mic and we'll have a discussion after that as well. Let's do that and do it within the 20 minutes if we can. That'd be only a positive thing. So,
I think one of the things that was bandied around of those 2 AQMD meetings here was the possibility of turning down their generous $1 million house study offer, which could again do more harm than good. So I hope that is still on the table. That goes without $100 as well.
Have you seen the email today?
Please come up.
Well, I can talk about it.
What time today?
Have you seen the email today?
They can't forward anything to me here.
The cell signal is not good here.
If the email came after 5:30, I haven't gotten it.
I think it was a little earlier from Joe Kay.
Okay.
But basically, they have you down as a representative for the neighborhood council.
Yeah, I saw it.
And we will correct that because I am
just
not.
to let you know. So, and it's right here, so I'll show it to you at the end. But yeah, my point was to come to you and say, what do you want? I'm just there to represent the community. I've been to the meetings. What does everybody want? It's not my opinion necessarily. It's what the community wants. So,
can I ask a question?
Of course.
As a medical professional.
I have an open discussion.
Okay. So can you give us, the funding that's there, can you give us an idea of, what are some of the structural things in this type of study? Sample size, you have a data collection component because you have multiple people who've seen their primary physicians, you have lawyers collecting data, you have people enrolling or not enrolling, you have to look at where you're drawing your people from. What is a reasonable sample size, I guess is my first question, to expect? Is it 100? Is it 50? Is it 200? Another thing is, the concept that I had in mind is a data, we all have this data collected in our records or in our file cabinets, but the point is if we create a portal where everybody can submit into, then the data collection part becomes very cost effective because people can just go online, link in there, put their information. So, I think the key point is to streamline things so that we can get the most bang for our buck. But I would like to know, as far as a study, because, we don't have background necessarily in doing these kinds of epidemiological studies. So if you could maybe give us some advice on what some of the key points that we want to nail down. I know it would be like sample size. I know we need to look at, the types of screening, tests, lab tests. What are some of the key components that we need to think about and quantify and put down on paper to make a recommendation as a board?
well, it depends. It depends on what your endpoint is. And I would define it as you have to go to your end to work then back at the beginning.
Okay.
So your endpoint is what do you want to accomplish? What do you want to look at? What is your goal, in other words?
Okay.
You can do a health study on symptomatology. You can do a health study on laboratory findings. You can do a health study on the epidemiology for diagnosis. And yes, I think everybody having information and putting it into a portal is good, but yet bad, because your data will be questioned. Your data will be challenged. So again, it just depends on what you want. You're the community. I apologize, I don't live here. You live here, you've asked me to go to this and represent you. So I want to represent you. So what do you want? What do you want? I mean, we all, I think, would like to know, is this going to harm you or your families down the line? So where do you go with that? That's one of the biggest things that's been thrown at me for the last 2.5 years of doing my studies. So, is $1 million going to cover that? I think $1 million will go a lot farther than you think.
I'd be interested, because cancers take 10, 20, 30, 40 years. What is a reasonable amount of time for a population to be followed after an incident like this regarding cancer?
Well, I think you have to look at the chemicals. And remember, you have your knowns and your unknowns.
Right.
So the unknowns we can't answer, obviously.
Right.
And your knowns of the ones that we do know, benzene is the most toxic, most likely. Okay, formaldehyde is there, and it also causes acute myeloid leukemias. But benzene is the big one, and usually the onset after exposure, chronic exposure, is 3 to 5 years. So you are coming up on that, and you have cases already in the community that this could easily be done if there was collaboration.
So 5 years should be studied for
Yeah,
onset?
I think 5 years and possibly 7 could be saved.
7? You think 10?
Well,
I
think if we don't find anything at 7 years, I don't think you're going to turn
Okay.
around.
So that's a tangible, 7 years.
Right, and then you also have the problem, it's like the mathematical equation, you have a lot of moving parts. You've had the question, which is stated fact, well within the attorney's grasp, that this has been happening for a long time. Then you have a blowout, and now you have, again, the issue, is this a chronic, slow-grade leak that you're exposed? So you have different phases of this. And what does that put you at risk for? It's all unknown, which amazes me, is that Harvard isn't here, or Yale isn't here, or Boston, or any of these high-level institutions to just jump on this and say, wow, what an opportunity.
Right.
I have one. It's like, I don't get that. I really don't. I apologize. But
With regards to Jason's comment, from my knowledge on the epidemiological studies on the water side, whatever data you put in just as a random input, this panel is not going to take. They're looking to do a study that is structured as a response in terms of verbal data collection. They need them to be answers to specific questions they are asking. And so I personally think whatever data we put in and people put in, the scientific community is going to look at this and say, it's just people opining, but it's not a scientific approach. So I would be very surprised if any of the just information that is sent up from people is going to be part of this evaluation. And that's going to be a difficult issue to navigate. But anyone who's doing this kind of study cannot take random data, because then they would be just spinning their wheels trying to make heads out of those data.
Can I respond? Okay, so that being said, and I understand the problem, but to back up a little bit, the problem is, let's say you had a lab test that was done, while the blowout was occurring. I mean, you can't go back and redo those lab tests. The time has passed, so that data is significant, and we have to figure out how to incorporate that. But to expand on what you're saying, I think if that's the problem, we need to focus on symptoms and the clusters that are occurring, if there are clusters in the community, because as far as I know, when they do epidemiological studies, that's how they say that, yeah, this is more likely an anomaly here, because the background levels of cancer or of whatever we might be looking at are only so much. You only have so much, nosebleeds within a demographic, and now you have, so I think if we focus on the symptoms, that may be easier if what you're saying is true about them not taking data.
But if the symptoms are documented medically through a lab test or through a doctor's diagnosis, I don't think that can be disputed. It's the question of, it's like the problem that I have with the survey that the health department did after the blowout. Going around and asking people, do you still have a headache? Well, you know what? Someone knocks on the door and asks you that question after you've been traumatized by this. The answer is not reliable at that moment, in that setting, in my opinion. But having information that is medically documented, that's gold.
Well,
and I hope that that's available.
Well, first of all, I think that that's going to be a nightmare. And I'll tell you why. First of all, there's a lot of doctors that don't believe in any of this.
Right.
So there's going to be a lot of false negatives. There's going to be people that came to their physician and said, I have a headache, I have a rash, and I have bronchitis. What's wrong with me? The doctor's going to say, you're a nut.
Or allergies.
And then release you. And it's never going to get documented. And also, you have a lot of capitated health care here. And I've tried to make this point before, and I hope I'm not going to get shot in the back. But yeah, probably.
There is a camera.
Okay, you got my back.
There is a camera.
Well, the issue is under our capitated health care, they do not want to get one fee for taking care of you. So for them to do things for you and to investigate is harder to get them to do such. So documentation and doing a retrospective chart review is going to be very difficult to get that information and pull that information out. Also, laboratory data is objective. Symptomatology is subjective. So your headache might not be his headache, or whatever the symptom might be. So that's going to be very difficult. I still feel that you had an issue of the blowout. It's done. I don't know if you're going to have any other evidence except for maybe doing an evaluation on people's homes that have kept their air filters and haven't changed them. I don't know where that's going to go. But you have the chronic issue that's going on now. Is it still being released and people still being affected? So I think starting with your monitors, which I agree with this, your fence line, but your fence lines need to be very specific, and I wouldn't do just methane. Methane is just a lead molecule. I think you need to do a methane benzene monitor as well. And if we're looking at cost, we can go mobile. A lot cheaper, one structure, take it around, fixate, do measurements, and correlate them with their readings. And then from there, put it together. I think you can also do epidemiology. I think you can do that pretty easily. And if I could get access to the attorneys, and they would release, but they don't, and no offense, they have their golden eggs. And they do not want to release any of that information, even though I don't want to know anybody's name. I don't want to know anybody's address. I just want to know, has the diagnosis been made? If so, what is it? And who worked you up? Right. So I want to then get that data, which then is gold, and then start looking at this and comparing it to other communities throughout the entire United States. Some high-level to tertiary facility should be doing this for you. I don't get whether. But anyways.
So all we have so far is, we know we want to be followed for 7 years. What else?
It sounds like he was...
Well, is there an answer on some guidance on sample size? Do you have an opinion on that matter?
Well, your sample size should always be compared to your controls. So if whatever you choose is fine, but you have a, usually in a study, you can go anywhere from 1 to 10%. Obviously, the bigger the sample size, the more accurate. But you have to parallel that with your control. So if you have 30,000 residents there plus a
Yeah,
sounds about right.
Yeah.
So if you got, 3,000 people in the study, I think that would be very significant. And easy to do controls on others.
How far out geographically would you go?
Oh, if I had my way, I would start at 1 and stratify it all the way out to 10 miles to see what you could pick up. Because there was not a veil on your community. It didn't go out to the 118 freeway and everybody just said, stop. Yes.
I was told that it did.
It dissipated, and we still don't have it. I don't know, maybe you've seen it. Have you seen the UCLA study that they did, the air currents?
No.
I went to the Department of Public Health, and I don't know where it is, but... And by the way, on the committee, I don't know if you see who's sitting on, EPA's on. There's a lot of people, Department of Public Health, OEHH is on it, blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot of big people, smart people.
On what committee?
This
On the HS study.
Oh,
How do you think we can leverage those people in those organizations?
Mafia.
Leverage.
I'm not sure what you
I mean, I guess, like, based on those, like EPA, for example, and their mandates, you know, WIA, their mandates and their funding, just an idea, I don't know, maybe, is there a way to, how we should be thinking on that?
are you talking about other funding sources?
Or using them and their expertise to contribute. I mean, the more we can bring into it, the better.
Well, I think
They did, Jason, and they said it would cost $30 to $40 million. They did weigh in.
And listen, I don't know if some of you agree with this. I look at this point and I go, oh my God, you cannot tell me that. When they tell you that you need $35 to $40 million to create or look at causation, it's never going to give you causation. Never.
And they really didn't. What they did was, unencumbered by the politics, the legislators reached out to OEHA and said, hey, give me an idea. What should we do here? How much would it take? So they got on and discussed it, and, you know, they don't give them, 5 months to come up with a number. They give them 2 days.
Right.
So the idea was, you do an initial study for $3 million, and then you follow up with 10 years for X millions every year to follow the health history of the population that you're included in the study. That was the overall picture of it, and
There was no detail. There was maybe some
That's it.
salaries for epidemiologists, but there was no detail.
There was a
in the
lot of staff
documentation
time.
that I read.
So the point is the more money you spend, it's still not going to give you what you want.
So we're back to, we have $1 million.
It'll give you an increased probability and association.
So we have $1 million. We want to ask to be followed for 7 years. We want at least 3,000 people. Well, what else?
I got to tell you, when I talked to the governor's office about this, his answer was, well, this $1 million is to figure out what the health study needs to be. And I said, well, no, that's not what it says. This is the health study. Like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. So, if they want to say this is the fund to figure out and design the whole program, wonderful. But that's not what is happening at this point. Go ahead.
What concerns me, I'm an attorney, okay, and I've dealt with experts forever. A study can be used against you as much as it can be used for you. And that's what concerns me about this, especially if you're putting it out for 7 years. Well, we gotta wait 7 years before we decide if we should close it down or not. Look, I think we're all in agreement on one thing. It's how you close down, okay? Bottom line, there's any number of reasons for it. The more you're doing on the fence line and everything else, the more you're monitoring it. Every single time they violate, you're right on top of them. That's going to get what we want. Otherwise, one of two things happened in 7 years. One, we weren't affected by it. That's great. Or a lot of us aren't around, which is terrible. I don't know if the study is where we should be. I think we should be on closing it down. And I haven't been involved in this, but I've been watching. And I think a lot of things you and the rest of the community are doing is right. Stay right on them. Every time there's a violation, stay on them. That's how you're going to get the results.
Go ahead, please get up.
So,
we gotta stay on message though.
Yeah.
This is about what should we decide.
So, like you said, the health study is so inadequate, we all know that it may work against us as well. So also discussed it at those meetings here, was using that money for something different, such as like a more robust fence line, to keep an eye on everything that comes out of there, as many chemicals as $1 million plus. They said they can come up with more money besides $1 million, but can they, use it for stuff like that, for like soil testing? Because that stuff's been coming out for years before the blowout. There may be some buildup, accumulation stuff that can be pointed to that could, show. You could probably get a lot more factual data from that kind of stuff for $1 million than you obviously could testing humans and an actual health study. So maybe that would be able to point to, oh, wait a second, there's this stuff coming out of the facility, there's all this stuff in the soil, there's a problem here. And, then open up the doors for, what we really need.
Susan?
That idea was floated by Jared at the ad hoc committee, using the $1 million for fence line instead of a health study, but the community came back so hard and so strong at these AQMD meetings that he backed off because he thought that you all wanted a health study.
We want both.
Well,
We want both and we deserve
right,
both.
okay, well, there's your answer.
We want
Yeah.
both and we deserve both. Well, I think that's fair. I think that's in the
I do
community.
too, I do too, but-
First of all, Susan, thank you so much for everything that you're doing to help us get that monitoring system. That's awesome. But we shouldn't have to pick, right? So I want to cover a couple topics here. They should be, church and state, they should be separated. One's a monitoring system for ongoing futures. The other is, what was the impact of what happened to us medically? So I am an advocate for separating the two. Nobody in this room would agree, thanks for your point, that we want a health study that's harmful to us. And by the nature of the way the gas company went in and negotiated the deal, right? Because that's what they did, you don't know that. It's $1 million, right? So I have a suggestion. This is some tightrope walking. But Susan, if you're going to be in Assam's stead for the first meeting, for the two of you, lead on the community. Seek as much input that we can offer and help you with. But here's my comment. They say, here's $1 million. Ha ha ha. You guys will never prove that that place is harmful for $1 million. Ha ha ha. Flip it around. The argument becomes, spend $1 million and come back and say, you know what? We can't prove it's safe. Subtle difference, but very important. We cannot, the symptomatology, the lack of awareness of what the chemicals are, SoCal Gas's own disclaimer of Prop 65, that there are known carcinogenics used at that facility. We spend $1 million, we come back and we say, we cannot assure the community that that facility is safe. And you watch the money pour in from SoCal Gas to prove something otherwise. It's subtle, but it's a very important difference.
Yeah, I want to say a couple of things, and then we gotta decide which way to go.
Total agreement with you. Total agreement.
Here's the thing. First of all, people on the HS tag are going to tell you it's well understood that you can never prove a negative. So they will not walk down the road of saying we're out to prove that it's not harming you.
That it's not safe. Right? That it's not safe. $1 million doesn't say it causes leukemia. We'll never do that.
I understand.
Right.
But remember, this is a product of a settlement with specific objective. They're going to try to stick to that objective, to conduct a health study by whichever way one defines it, and that's what this group is going to deliberate. So, from our end, in my opinion, it's futile to try to change the process. We either reject it or step in and influence.
Here. It's not that binary. It just doesn't
Well,
work that way.
I'm telling you my opinion.
Okay.
I think
the community wants you to fight for the gray.
And that's fine. So, again, go ahead.
I think you bring up a good point that the experts on the HS tag, in this case, you enumerated, they're going to acknowledge that you can't prove a negative. What I'm really curious about is if those same professionals are going to say, you can't do a proper health study, because it's their rear ends on the line too. They're part of this group. So one of the things I'm interested in is within the framework of what this health study is supposed to accomplish. The members of the community already believe the $1 million isn't enough to accomplish the end goal. I don't know how the professionals in the room can sit in the room and ethically say, you know what, medically, yes, it can. I feel like everyone in the room should go in and say, you know what, I understand what we're tasked with doing, but that amount of money isn't worth it. Excuse me, that amount of money won't accomplish what we're supposed to do. And then I don't know what the HS tag does at that point.
So maybe the community's representatives would, along that line, ask the question for the professionals in the room. In their professional opinion, what would they be willing to stand behind as a scope of a study for this amount of money? What would they say?
They're putting their names on it.
Right, so what would they say, in their professional opinion, can be done reliably, and they would defend it in the scientific community for that amount of money?
Right, and I don't think you have an option to sit there, as council suggested, and not to do anything, because I think the attitude, at least what I sense so far, it's their $1 million. It's not yours. It's not the community's. They fought for the litigation. They won. They settled behind closed doors. It's their $1 million, and they're going to go forward and do what they want to do. And you bring up a good point. It's set to fail at the beginning. Okay? So they're not going to have adequate numbers to show that it's either safe or not safe.
But then conclude.
Hold on. Hold on. Right.
They will be, it's kind of like having expert testimony. They will be the experts, and making their statement will be in the news, not yours.
So I would like the board to consider the position that we are, I don't want to use the word requesting, I would really use the word demanding. I know that is an itchy point for a collaborative.
Say it, now it's sanitized.
I don't want to sanitize. We are demanding of the HS tag to determine professionally with that body of experts whether or not a legitimate health study can be accomplished with the funds they have, based on the fact that they have their names on it, that it has to scientifically meet whatever medical standards there are for a health study of this significance. That's the first action they need to accomplish.
But Andrew, if you ask me that question, I would come back to you with the question, well, what is the objective that you're trying to
Exactly. What's your health study?
Yeah, what is the objective?
Okay, hold on. Haven't they defined what it is?
No.
They
No, it's only defined as a health study.
A dollar amount and the term health
That's
study.
that's what they're going to come back with.
It will be very interesting to see how the first meeting goes, and see where they're going to go on an agenda and who's going to discuss what. But these things should be brought up. But if we're allowed to represent the community, then we should bring that question forward.
Yeah, so we should be leading with that question. So the first question should be, what is the, how would you say, what is the scope, or what is the, how would you define?
How about we not make it a question, make it a statement? Because you open a question, you may not like the answer that comes back. So how about we make a statement that the neighborhood council is gravely concerned about the lack of funding to conduct a scientifically defensible health study that is of any value to the community. And we implore the HS tag to take a professional position on what is needed to answer the community's questions regarding their health concerns, and then determine and make a statement as to whether this amount of money is adequate to answer that question.
Did you get all that?
I was just going to say, Susan, did you get it all right?
It's
on camera. Reading it. It's on camera.
And I would like to add to that this is historic in terms of historical significance. And a scenario like we're in, with the disaster we lived through, has never occurred. I mean, in human history. Period. That That's something that needs to be a sentence, that needs to be in that room.
They know
This
it, we know it.
isn't people being sick.
Significant gravitas.
Yeah, it's gotta have some significant gravitas.
So, okay, please make your statement, then we gotta decide what to do and move.
I just wanted to add to your wonderful statement, the phrase sufficiently comprehensive, because if they just say, okay, we'll do a study that we can defend on this one thing, prove that one thing is false, and then they just hand wave, then nothing happens. So that was...
To me, when they define what it is that they can do with it, then they are owning that outcome. And anytime someone then says, well, there was no effect, the answer is no. This study addressed just that item that the H2S tag defined. That's why I want them to define what they believe is professionally defensible.
And you have to define whether they care about their reputation at all. Because I have not found that to be...
May I just say, I back you and I back Dr. Mandela. No one knows more than he does, so if we're going to have him make the decisions, he's the only one that I know of who's earned our trust. So, thank you.
Real quick.
But we definitely need both fence lining on the health.
Remember that the people who are writing the report will put the spin on it that they want. So whether you want them to say that you can't prove that it's safe, if they decide they're writing the report, they get to say, well, we didn't find anything harmful, whether you want them to phrase that.
That's what's good about having eyes in the committee.
Yeah.
Because if their conclusion is not supported by their data, then I will bring it.
But they do get to put their spin on it.
And also, I mean, in my opinion, when a scientific person is doing a study, the easiest thing for them is not to define the objective, because then whatever they get, they can write it in a report. But once you commit to an objective at the beginning and you're tracked on how you're meeting it, then you can't, I mean, you can bullshit it, not. So you know what I mean. Okay. Butcher. Yeah, butcher. That's what I said. Yeah. Okay. All right. We need to move. So are we making a motion on that statement? And what are we saying?
Yeah, so what is the statement?
Get a motion. You can say the motion on what's recorded on video, but we need to define it. So please.
I think we need to start with what the study is, right? It's going to be epidemiological study? Or you want to just jump right into, like, we want to define...
We're deciding what statement to make as a body. Right. So what do we want to say?
All right.
Feed it back.
More clarity on what the study is.
I would like to make a motion that the PRNC take a position. Position request.
Wait. Okay, I was going to say, you folks talk at 140 to 150 words per minute. I type at 80 words a minute. I'm going to lose about half your words.
That's fine.
I hope you don't know. I'm not a corporate
That's
lawyer.
fine. I would appreciate just focus on the decisions and motions we're making.
Yeah.
You don't need to capture every word in the discussion. I don't want to problem. Please. Would you like her to read anything back?
What you want, Andrew, is
what I want
a
is
statement at the beginning of the
the HS tag
from this council that says, in demand as he had suggested, in that particular verbiage.
Well, commit to an objective, right? That was number one. Commit to an objective of the study. And number two,
I want the group of professionals on the HS tag whose names will be on the resulting study to affirm that the current funding is enough money to prepare a
sufficiently comprehensive.
There you go. To prepare a sufficiently comprehensive health study of a historically first event.
Right, that would benefit the
That would benefit the affected community.
Tragic event.
Okay, we see.
Supplemented by video footage.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, quick, final public comment. Make it quick, please.
Yes, what about involving the lawyers that represent the people here in the community for their input as to what would they like to pass?
This is why we're having this discussion, to receive unconstricted comment, but beyond that, that committee, there will be public comments there, anybody can be there, but the group is going to have its deliberation, and they're not going to have additional members on that group.
Which actually
And Dr. Rudella is on that group.
What actually should be a good point is to let people know that they can come and sit in and listen.
Absolutely.
The more eyes, the better. No, the people.
And by the way,
They can be lawyers.
it is where, Andy, remind me?
It's in Van Nuys.
Van Nuys.
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock on
17th.
17th.
Second floor.
Just a second, please. Becky?
In the health study, are there any, will they be testing like the fruit and vegetables that are grown in this area?
The health study has not been defined. That's what the group is supposed to be doing.
Because one of my concerns, and this will be really fast, we've always had a Sunday in the fall or in the spring, orange.
Citrus Sunday, food forward.
What is it called?
Citrus Sunday,
Citrus
food
Sunday.
forward.
And it stopped a year or two ago, and we were told the reason why it stopped is because the food banks will not take food from this area because they feel the fruit is affected.
No, it was the med fly. It was
The what?
because of the med fly.
The
It was
med
because of
fly?
the med fly.
Well, I was told because they felt the fruits were contaminated.
I'm involved in food forward, and I know they were watching it. It was quarantined for the med fly. They sent
So
out
the
the
fruit is
sterile
safe.
med flies, and then they got the all clear.
So the fruit and vegetables people grow and all the livestock, it's safe. It's safe.
I
to
have no idea
ingest.
if it's safe. I'm just telling you why food forward quarantine
So,
promoting.
so I'm telling you,
Yeah.
okay. So is there any intention to test the fruits that are grown?
If I had to answer that, I would suggest to you, you do not go there. Matt's talked about the soil. The soil is fine if you want to test it. There's no association between the soil and the patient. So you can't, you're going to have to jump that bridge, and I don't think
What
scientific.
about the fruit off the tree that?
Even
that
your
fell?
fruit on the tree comes from the soil, gravitates, pulls, puts it in the fruit, you eat it, on and on and on.
You peel an orange.
You have limited funds to test the fruit versus testing people. I think is a waste of money right now. Let's see if the people are in. And that's probably a very small vector on how you're getting intoxicated versus your error.
Okay. Lori, you're a late comer. Quickly.
Sorry. My question is about the who. And I know you mentioned sample size, and I know you mentioned 3,000 out of the 30,000, but maybe we should also put some sort of guideline on that and say how many people are in the community affected by this that are in the community X many hours per day. Because there's people who live here but work downtown LA, come back. So what about the people who are here 24/7? Maybe make them more of a priority in the study, but I'm not hearing you say.
That's a comment that can go to the HSTAG decision.
Right.
Discussion, I should say.
I think if I were to do that, I would actually stratify it and put the patients in that are here 24/7 working and doing that to people that do go outside to see if there's a statistically significant difference between the two of them.
All right, we have a motion.
Second.
Do we have a second?
David seconded.
David seconded it. No further discussion? Call the vote.
All right, David.
Yes.
Hassan.
Yes.
Susan.
Yes.
Alex is absent. Jason.
Yes.
Andrew.
Absolutely.
Becky.
Yes.
Jennifer.
Of course.
Hassan.
Yes.
Gabriel. Yes. Isam.
Yes.
And motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Please.
Thank you, board.
Come on.
Thank you, Dr. Cordell.
You're welcome.
Stick around. All right. We have important business to go through. So, go fast. Yeah.
That was Dr. Nordell.
Item 15.
This is my,
Item 15.
we're entering my section of the meeting.
Attention, please.
Yes.
Attention, please.
Item
Go ahead.
15. Okay, I'm gonna try to get through these next few motions very quickly to get us back on time.
All right.
Agenda 15, motion to approve payment to Susan Gorman Chang as a board member reimbursement in the amount of $36.93. This is a reimbursement for stickers used on the passports for the Earth Day community event.
But 17 seconds.
Jason.
Jason.
That was quick. Okay. Public comment?
Oh, I have a question.
Board comment.
Okay, how come we're not using the P card for these expenditures?
The what?
The credit card. Do you not have that anymore?
We do, because for whatever reason, it was easier for Susan to do this without having to wait for me, and/or if there was any issue with the card. Susan has been gracious enough to do some payments to just get them done and move the event forward without having to wait for me.
And I don't have a problem with that, but I think the city has always had a problem in the past, and I would refrain from using that and try and do it as infrequently as possible.
Okay. Any other board comment? Call the vote.
All right, David.
Yes.
Hassan. Yes. Susan.
Yes.
Alex, absent. Jason.
Yes.
Andrew.
Yes.
Becky.
Yes.
Jennifer.
Yes.
Assad.
Yes.
Gabriel. Yes. Isam.
Yes. Item 16.
Item 16.
Andrew.
Motion to approve motion to approve payment to Gabriel Canlin as a board member reimbursement in the amount of $180.02. This is a reimbursement for meeting printing for the March meeting.
Okay, can I have a second?
Second.
Public comment? Board comment? No comment, call the vote.
All right, David.
Yes.
Reback it.
What?
Reback it.
David. Yes. Hassan.
Yes.
Susan.
Yes.
Alex is absent. Jason.
Yes.
Andrew.
Absolutely.
Becky.
Yes.
Jennifer.
Yes.
Assad.
Yes.
Gabriel. Yes. Isam.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Item 17, Jason.
So this is a motion for the event with Earth Day cleanup, just to cover food and some supplies for the beautification committee, which are things like the city doesn't provide, like gloves and trash picker-uppers, things like that. I built in a little bit of a buffer just in case, $69 in case we get a lot of RSVPs. Food is from Baja Fresh, and we got 9 of the trays. So it should be enough for about 50, 60 people.
I have a motion, can I have a second?
Second.
Public comment? Board comment? Call the vote.
All right, David.
Yes.
Hassan. Yes. Susan.
Yes.
Alex is absent. Jason.
Yes.
Andrew.
Yes.
Becky.
Yes.
Jennifer.
Yes.
Assad. Yes. Gabriel. Yes. Isam.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Item 18, Andrew.
Motion to approve reimbursement in the amount of $45.62 to Susan Gorman Chang for the purchase of popcorn, oil, and individual serving popcorn bags for use at our Community Earth Day celebration on April 14, 2018.
I'll second
I
that.
love the Oxford comment. You have a second, public comment?
I put it in.
Thank you. Board discussion, comment? Thank you. Looking forward to the popcorn. Call the
All
vote.
right, David.
Yes.
Hassan. Yes. Susan.
Yes.
Alex is absent. Jason.
Yes.
Andrew.
Yes.
Becky.
Yes.
Jennifer.
Yes.
Assad.
Yes.
Gabriel. Yes. Isam.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, item 19, Susan.
Okay, motion to approve the purchase of 100 stamps for up to $60 for use on pre-addressed envelopes to provide to our community members who send to CARB to advocate for Porter Ranch to obtain permanent independent fence line system under AB 617, Community Self-Recommendation. This is just an extra thing we're going to do to try to advocate for our community. We're sending a letter as a board. Each of you can do your own part. They're all over there on that table. They look like this. I'm donating these. These are just, you give to World Wildlife Fund and they always send you cards. You give to Sierra Club, they said, these are all of my family's cards. I just put them out there, self-addressed. You take one, you say, Lane Semper believes that Porter Ranch should have AB 617 fence line because of the methane and the Elisa Canyon especially. So yeah, that's what we're doing. We want to pay for the stamps, and that's what this motion is for. And this is just something, please, each of you, when you leave today, pick a pretty card with an envelope, fill it out, leave it there, and we'll get the stamps if this motion is approved.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Jennifer seconded. Public comment.
A third support.
All right, board. Call the vote.
Susan, thank you.
All right, David.
Yes.
Hassan. Yes. Susan.
Yes.
Alex is absent. Jason.
Yes.
Andrew. Absolutely. Becky.
Yes.
Jennifer. Hassan.
Yes.
Gabriel. Yes. Isam.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Item 20, that's my shtick.
Yeah, go ahead.
So here's the deal. We worked on the mail-in survey. It was going to the city to print and the city to mail it. I swear I'm going to write a letter to the mayor about this. The city printing office could not work with the city clerk's office to bill the postage to our bank account. The city's printing office insisted that they wanted to bill Dunn's postage account. Dunn said, no, you bill it to the PRNC account number. They said, we don't do account numbers, we do postage accounts. Went back and forth, that's why this damn thing hasn't gone out. I'm on camera again. So basically I gave up and went to Kinko's. And the thing is done, it's been printed, there's a sample that I need to look at, but it's ready to go out in about 4 days. However, when you add up everything we've spent on it, we are short $600, and I am asking for a motion to cover the additional cost, because this is the cost of the translation to Korean, which we have committed to, and the posting of the survey as well as the Korean translation to it on our website, which we have contracted to do, and that's what this money covers.
So if we don't approve that, are you stuck with the $600 bill?
No. But thank you. Public comment?
The ghost of Alex Kim serves that.
Board comment?
I'm involved with the city, but nothing shocks me anymore.
Yeah. So we took city money that we were going to pay the city to do its business, and now we're going to pay an outside entity more money to get it done.
Yep, that's the way it works.
That's what we need.
Okay. Call the vote.
All right, David.
Yes.
Hassan.
Yes.
Susan.
Yes.
Alex is absent. Jason.
Yeah. Yes.
Andrew.
Yes.
Becky.
Yes.
Now Jennifer.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Hassan.
Yes.
Gabriel, yes. Isam.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Very quickly, I want to thank Esau for persevering in this. A lesser man would have given up.
Yes.
And by the way, it is 6,018 mailings that are going out. For all residents and businesses in Portland.
Question.
Okay, item 21. What do you want to do, Mr. Treasurer?
So before we get to 21, board, remember that cool spreadsheet I gave you at the beginning of the meeting?
Yes.
Like 4 or 5 hours ago?
Put up.
Yeah, we lost
Okay?
it.
I lost it now.
Yeah. Okay, the spreadsheet I gave you, you should be deducting $600 from that available cash balance, that we just
Okay.
approved $600.
So 15,301.
Well, let me back that up, I apologize. I had already totaled the board member reimbursements and other items that I couldn't tell you, you better approve, that you approved. So, the 15,901.92 becomes 14,979.35. Please write that down. 14,979.35.
Thank you.
Now you should start keeping a tally.
Minus 600.
Minus now $600 for the item we just approved. Okay? Start keeping a tally.
379.
So it's now 14,379.35 as we continue to go. Okay? All right. Now, item 21. Okay.
All right, so this item has to do with all of the dead and dying trees. Primarily, you'll see them along Tampa. They've been a problem. I've met with 4 different contractors, and they've all recommended that those trees, when the tips are starting to dry out, those are infested trees. So I've gone ahead and put all of them in 311, that's this top spreadsheet here, and I've broken them down by area. So given that the budget is not where it needs to support this project, the idea is we had allocated $25,000 for community improvement projects, but now that $15,000? Okay, $15,000 for community improvement projects, and the project that was approved for $7,500 is not going to fund this fiscal year. It's going to be next year. So I'm open to amending this motion to allow for some work to be done in one phase, and then using our budget for improvement projects next fiscal year to hopefully complete it or get close to completing it, with the idea that we focus initially on Tampa, since that's the most, or it could be Rinaldi, but I'm just trying to think of the most traffic streets in our community, so it gives the most benefit to the most people in the community.
Let me ask you a question, Jason. One of my concerns is the email that we got about what the city's office said about how much it cost, and theirs was like $35,000 for 50 trees.
So
what's the story with that?
Okay, so that was unsolicited, okay? I was asking the council district to assist with the permits, and they went ahead and said, oh, by the way, we'll do the job for $38,000 if you want to use us. Now, I have 3 estimates. This one here is $40,000 from Carrie's Trees. And then I have another one which is for $13,600, but that's just Tampa, 36 trees. And then I have another estimate for $15,000, which covers 61 trees.
And those are just cutting, not replanting?
No, we can't.
I'm just asking,
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, exactly, because we've been having problems planting, and this is kind of the beginning stages. We will get to planting, but the problem is we need watering commitments. We haven't gotten watering commitments.
Would you consider an amendment that brings us to stage it, so bring this down to the $7,500 that you had put back in the budget, so it leaves us some money to fund some of the other things?
Jason, I have questions for you.
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
Well, let's get
I get an answer, if possible.
I mean, yeah, I think it would be better if it was closer to 10, but somewhere in that range, I think is a good, I'd like to get to more towards half of this. I did allocate a budget for street closures. Keep in mind, your street closures are going to have to be on Tampa, and we're going to have to pay the city to do those street closures, and that might cost us $600,000.
Okay.
So here's my concern. My concern is we're taxpayers. We pay a tremendous amount of money for services. Why isn't the city taking care of this? Who owns the trees, and why aren't they facilitating that? And this is where our tax dollars go.
Yeah.
Not where
It all comes down to the budget. It all comes down to the budget and the allocation of the budget to urban forestry, and everything that has been kicked down the road for so many years. Those pine trees, how long have they been in that shape? I mean, ask, people who've been around this community
I got
know.
you. My question is, are these city-owned trees? Are they owned by the city, or are they owned by Fort Ranch?
I've gotten 2 different answers from different city departments, so I don't think they even know.
But it's boggling.
I get 2 different answers.
We pay just so much money, and it doesn't come into this community. We don't get it. We need to hold our city officials, we need to hold our city departments accountable for the monies that we spend, and get them to come out and do this. They've done a tremendous amount of tree cutting off of Sherman Way.
Right. So let me address that. So some of the things that are getting done in the city, it's unfortunate, but they're paid out from other funding sources that are not from our tax base. And that's why a lot of this work is getting done. And it's unfortunate. But the idea with this is to put some skin in the game, okay? And remember that we were formed as neighborhood councils out of the secession movement, okay? Out of the same thing that you're saying. The city, we're paying our taxes and they're not giving our services. And so that's where our budgets come from. So actually, that's what the money's for, is to fill that gap in the city services. And it's a two-pronged approach. One, get the city to do more stuff for our community, but two, I think that we should put some skin in the game.
It applies to the sidewalk, applies to cleanup.
I get it, but we're
That's
talking.
not what we're tasked to do as a neighborhood council.
Correct. This is a huge skin. I mean, think about the money that we allocated, picking up people's weeds and how much time we spent picking up the community. I mean, we spent $3,500. What was the amount for weed abatement?
It's like 44,000 something.
44,000.
Yeah, maybe it was 3,500.
3,500, whatever it was. So now, we're just draining our budget on this. I mean, if we're going to do this, we should consider, just extending it. I mean, just taking small steps instead of doing,
Yeah.
all at one time. We could do little steps.
Can I ask you a question? What happens when the trees die? Then what? We have to remove them? No, the city comes and removes them because they are a hazard and potentially very dangerous to fall on someone and hurt
So they
somebody.
will only remove a tree, not when it dies. They won't remove those trees. Those trees will sit there.
Until it falls.
Until it
Case in
falls.
point, when it
Until it
falls,
falls.
they'll come and get it.
That's the only time
So
they'll
we
do
just
it.
need to wait till they fall.
Yes, that's the point. That's why we should do something.
Well, we
because
do
they're not
because we
gonna do
clean
it.
them up. But I think that, $21,375 is extraordinarily excessive.
Would you consider
That's the cost of the whole
amending
job.
Would
I'm
you
not saying that.
consider amending the?
Can I say something? Yes, of course. Go ahead,
When
Assad.
this motion was written, we had like 40,000 to spend.
Yeah, but that's not the case right now.
But we also budgeted 15,000 for community improvements projects, which we have spent zero on this
So then, can you
year.
amend it?
Well, that's what we're discussing. Assad?
Okay. The city cuts and trims on average about 12,000 trees a year. The first $1 million get paid by my division from the street lighting assessment fund. The rest of it comes in from different places. The list is prepared from the requests we get directly from the council offices. From CD12, I processed for the past year, the closest one to us is Devonshire, which is only being cut this week. If you notice, Devonshire has been all trimmed and cut and all that. But that was out to approval and contract and all that almost March 2017.
See?
So your key is, the money is there. You need to push CD12.
Which is next month, the plan is next month to push for trimming. But before trimming, you have to remove the dead trees first. You can't just trim these trees. They have to be removed. This is step one. It's a
I think we
multi-step
should
process.
table this and really push Englander's office to step up. I mean, they're in a position where they really need to step up for this community.
They're not. And we already emailed, we saw an email to
It's not
Don and
the
Photo.
point of email, it's the point of sitting down with them and having a dialogue.
We have.
Listen, this is going to be a hazard to the community, and it will be a lawsuit.
We've had 3 meetings, okay, our committee. You guys don't know all the background that's gone into this, but our beautification committee has met with the council district on 3 separate occasions, and we've asked them to help with these things. We saw an email to Jonathan Cotto and asked, isn't this something the city should be doing? And what was your response that you got? No response, right? I've spoken with the council district. They don't have any discretionary funds. So I don't know what you guys are doing.
Let me say something. I totally agree with you. I hate the idea of
I agree with you,
money being diverted in this way. The problem is the city has an epidemic of things that are not paid attention to. The reality of it is, here we have 2 things. First, we have this money that we are spending money on the things we want to spend on, but whatever we spend at the end of the year, whatever's left is gone. So frankly, what we're doing now in this meeting and next meeting is we're trying to manage our expenditures so we get to that line by the end of the year. So hear me out. The reason we're having this discussion about lowering this number, because there are other items in here that some of us want to support, and we don't want to just spend the money before we get to that point. So the idea of trimming this down, if we remove this, We're going to be left with 15,000 between now and then, and we may be asked to be spending it on things, frankly, that we don't care that much about. So the idea here is, in your mind, think about what can this number go down to so that we can be left with enough to fund the things we want to fund, but not have leftover at the end of the year. That is the challenge that we have in front of us.
So here's my question on the other if I pose. I mean, what the neighbor council is all about how it benefits, how the money that we spend, how does it benefit the community? So I get it, we're going to be cutting down the trees, but how is it benefiting the community at large when this is a job that the council should be looking at as a whole?
Well, it has a lot of great benefit to us because anytime you leave a dead tree next to your tree is next. So it is a good idea. It's a good idea to clean up diseased trees in the community.
This is something that this should be a discussion when Colin is sitting here to tell him.
We had those discussions. So now the decision is, do we do something or not?
Can I say one thing?
We were going to have Kevin James this evening, and this would have to be
Absolutely.
No. He would be the perfect person to move this. I know he got postponed to next month. So table this item to next month.
I need to say one thing.
Jason, then Susan.
You guys need to understand something, okay? If you table this motion, I don't have time to get this done. So you're pushing it off to fiscal next year because I have to get the permits. I have to find
the contractor. You got to pay them.
You got to pay them. So there's no. If you want to table this, then it's tabled till next fiscal year.
Just a second. Susan, and then Jen.
I'm in favor of not this large amount, but some amount to take care of some of the trees. Jason's right, the bark beetle goes from, after it kills this tree, it goes to the next tree, goes to the next tree. The benefit to the community is a safety issue. You're going to cut down some of those trees. And it looks bad. You drive up Tampa and it's dead tree. You know, so it's a safety issue. It'll stop some of the spread of the bark beetle, and that's my point. Okay.
I agree, but also I did a quick little calculation here. If we were to fund all the other funding motions on here, we'd be left over with $1,879. My advice to you is to amend this to be a lower amount. Would you say you had it approved before at $7,500 for something in here and then you took it back out?
The median.
Right?
The 7,500 was the adopted median.
Can you get started at that amount and then?
Let me.
Go ahead.
I've got
Andrew, Hassan, and then Becky.
So I've got a question, and we'll need a short answer, and then I'll come back with a suggestion after that. How much is it per tree?
About $375. But it's hard to say because it depends on the contractor we choose. But based on American Heritage Landscape, who did some of the work for Northridge West, they're about $375.
It's page 3. Behind that.
Yeah, it's about $375 per tree.
Okay.
You know, it could be a little more.
All right.
Yes, and they grind the stump down too.
Okay. I would like to suggest that we table this motion to the end of this meeting.
Oh, there we go.
Okay? Hear the other funding motions and come back to this. It will provide.
I'm totally open to
That's my
what
suggestion.
money is there. I don't want to spend money we don't have.
Hassan?
Okay, I'm okay with that, but my suggestion was that personally I feel like this is one of the more worthwhile projects to do because that's what's discussed and argued. That if you leave this thing, you know, between now and next year, a couple of other trees either side of one of whichever tree may not be there. So we'll have even an uglier and more expense that we have to pay. So
it's getting worse.
Okay, I agree with Andrew. I think we have some motions for expenditures here that I don't even know who these people are.
Okay.
And I want those trees cut down though. I would right now vote for the $19,000.
How about I make a suggestion along the lines?
Well, can I ask you to consider Andrew's idea of
Why don't we
tabling it?
move one up at a time and vote on one at a time? Move one MPG up at a time.
Well, that is what we're going to do.
So
One at a time.
which MPG would you like to review first, Andrew?
Well, let's
Rather than saying everyone, let's just try and get through, and then we'll...
Let's do 22.
Or we can actually...
I'm sorry, hold on. There's an order to the motions, and we decide whether we table one till the end or not, but we're not going to randomly shuffle. So, my question to you is, if you want to move it, if you consider moving it to another location in the agenda, not the end, that's your choice.
Yeah, not the...
I'll ask you for your recommendation, it's your motion. What would you like?
Give me 1 second. Okay, let's move it to between 23 and 24.
Okay. Any objection?
What do you want to do?
Move it to after 23.
Between 23 and 24.
So after the VAX Robotics, but before the Chinese Cultural Association.
Well,
Exactly.
24 and 25, I don't even know who those organizations
So
are.
we'll get to that,
You will,
we'll decide.
So why don't you move it to after that?
Well, he doesn't want that, he wants to move it after
Because
23.
you don't know if you'll win.
So, all right, if there's no objection, we're moving it till after 23. I'd like to pick up item 22. Andrew, and would you please, yes,
I need to recuse myself on this.
okay.
Who else needs to recuse?
Who else needs to recuse? Becky and Dave, okay.
Only they can do it.
Sorry?
I don't have kids yet.
Well, I'm just asking, you never said something, okay.
My kids are 11th grade.
Kids are here? Good, yeah.
When's
everybody
leaving before I get up?
Kids here.
Oh, it's
Got
fine.
kids here.
I don't mind.
We're all good.
Where's your kid?
Okay,
All right.
okay. We're good.
Okay.
Motion?
Agenda item 22. Motion to approve the MPG application for Friends of PRCS in the amount of $2,500 for sponsorship of the 5th annual golf tournament in Fiesta.
Yes.
Is there a second? Clue represented in here?
Second.
Susan, second.
1 second. Is there someone from the organization, please, if you can give me 2 minutes?
2 minutes. I'll try my best.
It's hard for him.
It's very hard for me. My name is Evan Press. I've lived in the community for 38 years, which is my whole life. I am a board member of Friends of PRNC Community School. And what we do is we raise funds for the school. And the reason this kind of thing is so important is because, does anybody know how much we get from LA Unified every year? $26,000. That's what we get from LA Unified at this school. Okay, so I know a lot of you understand how important this school is in this community. Tremendously important. And I know that you guys, have given other dollars to other schools, Castle Bay, etc. I don't believe you guys had a presence here in a few years at all. Since I've been on the board, and my kids have gone here for at least 3 years, I really haven't seen any presence of the neighborhood council here. This money will go towards getting your name out there into the community, but more importantly, it will go towards the kids, to the technology, to the STEAM program, and to all the programs we fund here. If you've noticed here, we don't even have a playground. Okay, there's no playground here. We had to fund that ourselves. Anybody know what that cost was? $150,000 for a playground that LA Unified wouldn't do. So in finishing, I just want to say that the money, it's not the golf tournament, okay? The golf tournament, yes, you'll get your sign, you'll get everything. The money is to go to the kids, it's to go towards the programs, and of course also the benefit to the neighborhood councils to get the name out here, because in this school, which is so important in the community, I don't think anyone really knows necessarily who you are, and I think that will help get exposure, and not only, and then secondly, and will actually firstly help the children. So, for the children, thank you.
Thank you. We had a motion. And do we have a second?
Susan
I second it.
Sure, I'm sorry, second. Okay, just a second. Any public comment?
I do.
Make it quick, please.
The school is important. This is where we have our meetings, but I take offense to saying that we should go get the word out. You should come in here.
Right.
You should have the parents come in here. I lived in Sherman Oaks, and I personal meeting except for 2 in 2-year period. So please, have a little respect for the people who go out of their way and do help the kids. We're helping them breathe. 20 to 25% of kids in Los Angeles have asthma. We're fighting to keep this air safe for them. It's a lot more important than a playground. So, as far as the things you say, it's important for kids to play, but that's not stopping them. It's more important for kids to breathe.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Just a second. Public comment? Yes.
Real quickly.
Sure.
It's hard for me to get to the microphone.
No problem.
Real quickly, I have been associated with this neighborhood council for 15 years since it began. Over the years, the council has done a tremendous amount for the schools, Castle Bay and the school. And if it weren't for the Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council, this school wouldn't exist. So there have been things you don't know.
No, I don't know. Yeah,
But,
exactly.
but the
Right.
council has been very supportive.
Okay, yeah, I just don't know, and maybe it's been a few years, so.
We will just.
You know, you need to talk.
Yes, stakeholders take priority. Go ahead.
Clearly, slightly insensitive comment aside, this seems like a very worthwhile thing to spend money on.
Thank you. All right.
If I may interject before all the questions.
Go ahead.
Can we spend a minute and clarify the elephant in the room, if you will, which is what do we get for this money? We do that with 3 questions?
Okay.
Well, it's part of the question.
You don't know that, because there's no $2,500 package.
Right.
Well, I'm assuming outreach and swag bag, you said that in your motion.
You're gonna, yeah, so, but we haven't locked it down, if you will. So do you want to do that now, or do you want to ask a question?
I have a question, I have a statement.
Just a second. Would you please explain the nature of our funding and what the framework of it is?
So this was presented to me by a board member who had to recuse himself. And as we discussed whether or not this would be feasible to accomplish, my response was, well, this seems to be a really good outreach opportunity. We don't care about getting a foursome in the tournament.
Right.
But what we care about is getting our banner up at the school, getting our name out there, getting a T sign at the event, whether or not we're sponsoring the lunch area. This is, for me, a really good opportunity to get a ton of outreach from something. I mean, we put our logo on a t-shirt, and it's kind of, in my world, that's like a passive advertisement. This is the NC that we can work with, the friends at PRCS. The NC can be front and center in a lot of ways, and not only get our name out to people, families who are here at PRCS, who will golf, but a lot of other people around the valley who will come and enjoy the fiesta and the golf tournament as well. This, to me, is a fantastic outreach tool for us, which is our main objective.
As a city body, that's the framework by which we provide MPGs. So it's important to recognize that you can aim for whatever objective you want with it. The board's objective has to be focused primarily on outreach, because that is the strongest component to MPG funding. So the visibility of the board's name in the event and in the schools are paramount to us being able to do this. Otherwise, even the city would come back and say, if it's not justified that you're getting it within the framework of the parameters you're supposed to spend money on, it gets rejected. So it's critical that the messaging of this for the board be about outreach.
Okay, so you're saying the primary objective is for the name recognition and not
outreach.
Necessarily the support for, I mean...
It's not a matter of objective, it's a matter of justification.
We have to get something.
We have to show
That's not our right. It's the city.
That's the
right, and that's why I said it wasn't to be insensitive, but what I was saying was that since I've been 3 years at the school, I haven't necessarily seen the PRNC as a,
I get it. We want to rectify that.
Right, and that's what I was saying.
But you got to understand, we work with certain parameters, and the outreach has to be front and center
I
on
see.
that.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Just remember that.
I didn't know that. Okay.
I know you're going to have a heart attack, so go ahead.
Yeah, I mean,
Go for it.
especially the presentation we got is like even more offensive than PRCS. Look, we work very hard for this school and other schools and everybody. For you to stand and say here whatever you say is not nice. We last time had some members of your PTA came for money for the playground and we authorized it. And then a couple days later, we were kicked out of this room by LAUSD, by the principal, which she didn't even show up because she knew she would get an attack.
Hassan? He's a stakeholder?
I don't think he's giving him the backstory.
That's fine,
Can I give you the
but
backstory?
I'm just giving you a little caution.
I'll slow down, okay.
But
So in fairness, I looked at it.
Yeah, and I apologize for that. I apologize.
Yeah, you should
Go
have
ahead,
it home.
Hassan, go ahead.
In fairness, I think a silver package with $1,250, meaning $1,500 minus the 4 tickets. So to amend the motion from $2,500 to $1,250.
No, silver is 1,500.
I know, but minus the 4 tickets, we don't get the 4 tickets. So it's $1,250. And we could settle in for banners on the streetlights. So this way we have the whole year that PRNC is present and is doing his job since inception.
Is there a reason we should not do this amount as requested?
Well, you're gonna have the next item is about $1,000, so
Yes.
that's where you match schools. I figure the closest one is silver, $1,250.
I don't know what you're talking about, silver, what are we
He's
talking
talking
about?
about the tax package.
Sorry,
Forget the taxes, you're not allowed to quote unquote.
Yeah, we're not sponsoring anything.
I know, but that's.
Okay,
We are providing grants to improve our outreach into the community.
Outreach in the community is way beyond the boundary of this school.
It doesn't matter. We make it at multiple fronts. This is one of those fronts, but not
I think
every.
1250 is a very good number. Yeah. This way you refer to all schools.
Jennifer?
I'm going to echo the sentiments of some of the stakeholders and some of the board members and just say, you really should have taken your time to do the homework. The people that stepped out of this room to recuse themselves is because they are seriously involved in this school. Becky and Assad helped build this school from the ground up. And David, as you know, is a very active member at the school. And we have always been supportive of this school, not only since I've been on the board, but prior to me being on this board for the past 2 years. This Puerto Rico Neighborhood Council has always been very supportive of this school. Yes, it's unfortunate that the grant that you sought, what was it, a few months back or something, like last year, was kicked off. It was not our fault. It was the fault of the city, okay? We wanted to support you guys. We didn't want to support that amount. The board voted to amend it and have a lower amount. But for you to come here and have that kind of an attitude is really off-putting. When I think, I totally want to do outreach. I think this is a great idea. But, we're never going to get anywhere, in a relationship with the school if it comes in this manner.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Thank you. I apologize.
Any other comment?
Yeah, and just so you know the detail.
Lane, please.
Okay, just so you know the details of what happened with that motion and the reason it was rejected. The reason it was rejected was because there was this big number, this 150,000. And I think at the time they came in, they may have only had 50 or 60. There was no end date foreseeable. They didn't see the end of the rainbow. So it was more of a, that was the issue. So we approved it as a board, but the city rejected it.
And the last thing I'll say is that clearly there's not a lot of communication between the school and the PRNC necessarily in a sense where I don't know the things that have gone on. Like you said, something happened.
Well, come talk to us.
Yeah, I don't know.
Accessible.
Yeah.
You can board@prnc.org. That is our email.
Right.
We are happy to help you. Jason is the chair of the schools committee. Hassan's the president. He talks to the principal on a regular basis.
Right.
We are here to have a great relationship with you guys.
One of the things you need to understand is we are taking on the issues here in this community. And every person you're looking at here weighs a big burden on their personal life for what we do. And we're all volunteers here.
Absolutely.
so you may not know exactly what we're doing, and we may not know what you're doing and be in direct contact, but just understand that we're taking on a lot here, and we're welcome to listen to what the school needs, but that initiative should come from the school because, you know, anyways, we're on. We're moving on.
Fresh start.
So,
Thank you.
Let's vote.
we have a motion and a second.
I'm sorry, what's the motion?
The motion to fund the 25, approve the MPG request at 2,500. Are we ready to vote?
I would like to amend to 1250.
Me too.
So seconded.
You're making a motion to
Just a second.
amend.
I make a motion to amend the amount to 1,250.
And I second.
Hassan said.
Okay, just a second. We have a motion to amend and we have a second. We're going to have a discussion on the amendment. So, comment from the public on the amendment. Quick.
I'm a husband.
I support the amendment of 1250 because I know you guys have given to Nobel, you've given to Castle Bay, you've given to other schools as well. And I think 1250 is a very worthy amount. I think 2,500 is a little too much. But I would like to know that we're going to get a banner out there. That's what I'd like to be assured.
That's
my point.
This is comment to the board. Lane, quick.
I support 1250 and we'd love to see you and come and join us and we'll see what happens next year.
Any other public comment on that motion? Board comment on the amended motion? I personally would urge the board to keep the MPG request at what it is. We were not able to provide support last time. This is a way for us to provide that support. And I will again tell you, you may not believe me, but the reason we could not meet here had nothing to do with the PRCS administration. It had to do with new staff at LAUSD that all of a sudden decided every organization that meets at an LAUSD school must go through the permit process. And it's only when I had the city attorney call LAUSD's attorney, and the LAUSD attorney said, where did this come from? We already have an agreement for you guys to meet at the school. So they sent the email to Mary, and Mary said, great, I don't have to worry about LAUSD's office down in Van Nuys telling me you're not allowed to have them without a permit. And the issue went away. And we are scheduling our meeting. Gabriel was out. We're scheduling through the summer. It's not an issue with PRCS. Just like they had a misunderstanding why we couldn't fund it, I am telling you, there was here a misunderstanding of what caused that hiccup. We worked through it. We got into hiccups with friends. We worked through them. We resolved them. Everybody's happy. PRCS is going to be at the Earth Day event. We have students that are going to have community hours. I'm very happy about that. Let us stay with the motion where it is and approve it.
I would like
I'm sorry?
Where is Mary?
You know what?
You will get a better attitude from me next time, I
Look,
promise.
I think we should keep it at the 2,500. Given what has happened, I think it is a worthy cause. I think we can, I like Assad's idea of keeping the banners up on the light posts.
Just very quickly, what's the difference between the 2,500 in terms of outreach? What's the difference? Is there any difference?
Well, that's why I have to look because I don't know if there's even at the level.
No, there's no, we can't, don't worry about the packages, we cannot.
We're not sponsoring.
We're just.
So what is the outreach component that we're voting on? At 2,500 versus 1250?
Can you agree to this? We get our banner not for the calendar year, we get a banner for a year. Can you agree to that?
Yes.
If not, your head yes. We're going to put whatever swag we would like in the bags of the carts.
Of course.
Okay? Perfect.
We want.
We would like.
Mention
do you have a lunch buffet? Is that the fiesta?
Yes.
Okay. We would like to be the.
To put a banner at the
We would
lunch.
like to be sure. We would like to have our name around the food. Not good, yes.
I think for 2,500 we should be named as the main sponsor.
We're not sponsorship.
We can't sponsor.
We're not sponsored. Okay, so those are the discussions. You heard what we can do. Can I?
Is there a look? Is the Friends of PRC have a website?
Call the vote?
Yes.
School.
Logo there?
Yes.
Great.
Okay.
That's what we get.
All right. Can we vote?
So vote on the amendment.
Can we vote on the amendment? And the secretary is not.
I have it. I have it.
We're voting on whether to approve going to 1250.
Okay.
I have it.
You have
I'll
it.
take
You
it.
call the vote.
Sure. David? recused. Hassan?
I'm sorry.
We're voting on the
Are we voting
1250.
for full amount or?
We are only
Right now-
voting on whether to approve the amendment, amendment 1250. Do we change the amount?
Yes.
You're voting yes.
Okay.
Susan?
No.
Alex is absent. Jason?
I'll vote no on the amendment.
Andrew? No on the amendment. Becky is recused. Jen?
No on the amendment.
Assad?
Yes, for only 1,200.
Okay?
Gabriel.
Gabriel?
No on the amendment.
Isam?
No.
No.
Okay,
Okay.
that didn't pass.
Didn't pass.
The amendment does not pass.
Okay, we had a motion and a second and a discussion on the NPG as requested. And we have a vote on the original motion. Yes.
Great. David? Recused. Hassan?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
Alex is absent. Jason?
Yes.
Andrew, yes. Becky, recused. Jennifer?
Yes.
Assad?
Not to this school. No.
Gabriel is recused. Isam?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, item 23.
Hold on, we go get it.
Yes, let's put them, I'll go get it. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
That's
Just
okay, I know.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Jay, I gotta go. Okay, I'm sure you guys will. I'm
Okay.
sorry. Babysitter issues.
Okay. Agenda item 23. Can I move on to 23?
Yes.
23.
23.
Motion to approve the MPG application for Castle Bay Lane Elementary in the amount of $1,000 to support their sex robotics program.
Okay, that's a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second. David, would you please speak to the NPG?
Good evening. I'm the assistant principal at Castle Bay Lane. My name is David Geringer. For the 18-19 school year, I, along with some others, would like to start a VEX IQ robotics program at Castle Bay. We have been having Lego for the past few years, but VEX is like the next logical step while keeping the primary students in grade 4 and the Lego for the basic programming, and then moving on to the advanced VEX IQ, which is now basically taking hold at the middle school and on the VEX at the secondary. This is basically, I view this as phase 1. This fall, before school's out, we're going to have our tryouts. We're going to gauge interest and participation. Where we're planning to start with 2 teams, compete here in the Valley. We actually have already a couple of tentative dates of having a small and a larger event at Castle Bay, inviting other schools with our objective to go to at least the states in the spring of 2019. Again, this application for STEM and STEAM. Our objective is for at least 30 to 40% of the girls to be part of the program, because I do believe that that's our future. This also promotes the soft skills, the 4 C's of critical thinking, collaboration, communication, and creativity, while addressing also some engineering practices and design. And we've always got some parents who are also interested in being in support of this program. So this is like our phase 1. Now, we may have gone on the lower side, but this is what our estimate is as of this second in time.
And under this NPG request, how visible is the neighborhood council going to be?
Thanks, a very good question. I am one of the webmasters of our new castlebaylane.org website. We have a subsection already dedicated for robotics. And as the VEX program will launch, I will definitely either add that on that component or have a subpage dedicated to VEX robotics. And definitely Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council will be prominently displayed on that website. If we come back in the fall for phase 2, I could foresee it being a banner perhaps at the November and December events, which would be held on the campus. And if past holds, many of these events have anywhere from 12 to up to 20 schools in and around this area.
And what is important for us is to, A, be visible, and second, to reach out to the parents that are our constituents in this community. So it's great that there are other people coming, and it's good to have our name in front of them. But I think one of the things we'd like to also know is we want to reach out to the parents in the school and let them know that we are supporting their kids' advancement in STEM through this program. So
absolutely.
Whichever way you get the message.
Well, I know the easiest and quickest way, which is me, because I'm a webmaster, I can put it on the website in 5 minutes. Okay. Getting the banners, that I would see that as phase 2, when the funds are a bit more advanced, we can put the banners up. That advanced. Yes, sir.
Yes, Lord.
In regards to the banner, it's so important. The banners are not expensive.
No.
And I sit on the board at this school, and I can't tell you how important it is for the community to know that the Port Orange Chamber Council supports, Castle Bay and what they do. So I would consider trying to, I hope you would reconsider and just put up a banner so they know that we're there supporting the school. And it's not the first time, because prior to you stepping into your position, we donated $5,000 for benches that there's never been acknowledgement.
Well, I can't speak for what's happened in the past, but I can definitely work on this sponsor.
What would it take for us to have a banner at the school to show that we're there sponsoring you?
I would just have to talk with the principal and see what can be worked out.
Great.
Yes.
It's not us.
I know. I've read some of the fine print.
The city will ask us, how will the neighborhood council be exposed if they make this donation? What's in it for the neighborhood council?
Exactly.
We know, but we have to prove it.
Okay.
So we'd like, maybe if you can remain flexible in terms of us working with you on the messaging of this.
I am not, it's not just on stone either. I'm going to say the website can do it in 5 seconds, or 5 minutes, not maybe 5 seconds. Very quickly. Hi.
Thank you, and I think this is a wonderful step for the school. VEX is a great program. Personally, I'm involved in it for 6 years. I'm very biased for VEX. And I love Castle Bay. It's the friendliest school compared to this one. So I wish if Andrew lets me to increase your requested 1,000 to the full 2,500. But since you asked for 1,000, we cannot go up, we can go down. I cannot make a motion up, I can make a motion down.
Well, I appreciate
But given you clarified this is phase 1 and all that, all I could say, wish you the best of success. If you need any volunteering for the kids training and all that, we can do outreach. There is a lot of skilled kids. We know often robotics live here. And familiar with the VEX and the FRC. That should be your next step, the FRC.
Absolutely. What is it?
Let Jason.
I will spend a whole hour talking about it.
No, we're not. Jason?
I think it's great, the leadership you're taking with the school, and a couple suggestions. I know you have a newspaper. I've read your little newspaper. It's great. Maybe if they do an article about the robotics and recognizing Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council in there as one of our sponsors. Another suggestion, Valley Voice. Supporters. Thank you for the correction. Another recommendation, Valley Voice, for example, if they'll take people who want to write articles, you write an article about the VEX program, mention your, whatever you call them, what is it, supporters? So just some of these things, real simple things, that's what will help us tremendously.
No problem. I've had some success. I can't guarantee it. But I've had connections with the LAUSD. Barbara Jones is the Office of Communications. So I submit tons of articles. They pick and choose what they want, what's hot for that day.
They'll blast, they're perfect.
So whatever I can do, I've been more than willing to work with everybody.
Susan, and then we got to vote. You're good? Okay. Can we have a vote?
Yeah.
Do we get a motion?
Andrew made a motion. Jason seconded it.
Jason seconded. Public comment, I'm sorry.
Support.
Lori, quick. Oh.
Corey's going to say what I want to say. Say what I want to say.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
I don't know that I'm going to say what you want to say. I'm going to say
I totally support this, this funding measure. I drive the Granada Hills kids over here to mentor the robotics class at Castle Bay. I would like to see, I'd like to know whether or not the name is going to be on the little Beth spot. So that's my question.
Thank you.
When they get one.
As a parent of an up-and-coming child for this district, I have already been looking at the Castle Bay Lane website. So I can say as a parent that I have already been looking at it and would have definitely looked at the robotics and seen the banner. And also as a woman who is in STEM and in programming, please pass this. I'm tired of being alone.
All right.
Let's have a vote.
All right, David. Yes. Hassan. Yes. Susan.
Yes.
Alex is absent. Jason.
Yes.
Andrew. Staying. Becky.
Yeah.
Yes. Jennifer. Absent. Assad.
Yes.
Gabriel. Yes. Isam.
Yes.
And motion passes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Did you ask me?
Yep.
Jason,
Yes.
your motion is up.
Okay. So, with this one?
We're bringing 21 down.
We're doing the math here.
Board, please take your number down. We're at 10,879.35.
Listen, hold on for a second. Would you please repeat that number?
Board, we are currently at $10,879.35.
Got it. Okay. So, what do you recommend, Mr. Treasurer, for an amount?
Please don't ask me.
Okay, I'll make a motion.
Do I hear nine?
I'll make a motion.
Before you make a motion, let's have a discussion. So, just think about, after we leave today, how much money do you want to leave for May buffer, May flexibility? Okay? Now, we've already accounted for the anticipated expenses.
And two more motions.
Well,
Yeah.
we've anticipated the regular expenditures. If you want to have some buffer for flexibility, how much money would that be? Is that $1,000 to let it see if things come up?
Are there any other funny motions that other board members plan on bringing to the May meeting?
No one can answer that question now. So,
sometimes.
but I mean, in the absence of that information, this is an opportunity to make a decision on this, but the question is, do you want to take out a certain amount that you'd like to have as a buffer, small amount, in case an expenditure comes up in May, that is an unanticipated operating expenditure or whatever?
I understand. Well, if we do 10,000, that would leave $879.35 we need to spend in May. I don't know if that's enough of a buffer.
And it's a little tight
buffer. What do you have in mind for? I mean, what if we don't have the ability to spend that money next?
You know, that's the problem with buffers, is that you're accepting the idea that you leave it there as a safety cushion with the possibility that you're not going to use it and it'll be gone at the end of the year, but that's insurance, you know?
And then the other thing is, what if we don't get the permits and we don't spend it in time too? You know, because I'm still tied to the city.
I hear you.
Assad, approving the permits.
I mean, look what happened to the median.
Yeah. So.
Are you saying that there's a chance we could lose that? This isn't a done deal that they're going to.
So when you cut down a tree, you need a permit.
In time. I know what you need, but.
Okay, so if I don't get that permit, how are we going to cut down the tree without the permit?
It's got to be worked out. We can't go on the bank when we work it out.
Well, the question is for us to approve the funding so we can go get a permit to do it. But we can't cut the tree without the permit, and we're not going to get a permit unless we have.
But sometimes in the city, if things are pending, sometimes they'll let it go into the next one.
I know. So that's a negotiation frankly with CD12 too. But the point is here is, we're going to have to, you know,
So at the May meeting, I should have more clarity on whether the permits have been issued.
At the May meeting, hopefully you will have it in the system.
In hand. And I can go to them and say, we've got the funding, now get us the permit so we can get the work done.
You can't go to them in the May meeting with that question, believes me.
No, I'm saying to the urban forestry, the city, I'm saying, when I go tomorrow, I can go to the city now and say, we have the funding, please issue the permits ASAP. So that's the point. If I go to the city and I say, issue the permits ASAP, well, where's your funding?
I agree. I'm just saying, this needs to happen tomorrow.
Of course.
Asad.
Jason, I recommend we do the 21 trees, which is the bottom ones, at $375, which brings it to $7,875.
So just to be clear, what he's talking about is
the list.
focusing not on Tampa and, but on these other ones below, which are going to be Doral, Porter Valley Drive primarily, Wilbur, and Rinaldi. There's 5 of them on Rinaldi.
We need the more visible
roadways. But that's the problem, is it's 33 and we don't have the money for the visible stuff.
You don't have to do all or nothing of Tampa.
Okay, then do 21 to be
Do
identified.
you want to identify this now, or do you want to leave it up to
21. That's fine. I don't care for identifying the trees. No.
You can leave it up to beautification.
Yes, I would say that. So we're just trying to come up with a number.
Give a budget. I can push for the permits on the ones that we decide are.
I suggest, based on what I'm hearing, and hopefully we can get this going so we don't have to waste time. What do you think about $8,000?
I'm okay with the budget. I just want the board to be open to next fiscal year. Let's try and get, a big chunk of this done if this is successful, okay? And then let me finish. The other thing is, I don't want to see that $2,000 go back to the city, so I want you guys to come with motions to do stuff, make sure that I don't want it to go back to the city, that's all.
Okay, so
suggest-
next month you come back and you amend it and you get another $2,000, but in the meantime, we got to get going on this because it's already.
I can't get going until you guys approve it.
Okay. Question to
what's the amount?
Question to Andrew. Can we say it in a way where we say minimum 8,000, maximum 10?
You can say up. You can say up to
10,
10.
but in our mind we're gonna spend 8. But give him the cushion up to 10. So this way, so let's
You got to be careful. If you say up to 10, you are accepting an expenditure of 10, and we don't want to get caught with an expenditure that somebody pays as a reimbursement or something and doesn't have the funds for. So, let me ask you, would it be too tight? Would it be too tight if we go for 9?
Is there any, I don't know.
You're asking me?
Can't we say,
You're the winner.
Just a second.
in the motion, can't we say not to exceed $10,000? That gives us a leeway of how much we're going to.
It says up to. The motion says
That means $800 of unallocated funds. If that's enough, that's enough. I'm just saying, we need a number that we can work with, so we can do it up to 10,000 with what you got to understand is if we say up to 10,000 and we're short, then your ultimate contract to the contractor has to be less than that. So I'm a little nervous about that.
Yeah, so you have the actual work, and then you also have the street closures too.
Yeah.
So, if I get all the permits and I get the bid from the contractor, but then, so you have to leave enough for a contract job, and so I don't know. Either, it doesn't matter, whatever the board decides.
Okay.
No.
Can I give one suggestion? One suggestion. Why don't we make the motion to approve up to, let's say, 10,000, and by May meeting, you should know more about your permits, all the situation, and at that point, if you frankly think you're not gonna be able to spend that, or there's some issues, then we have a chance to bring other motions and get going with it.
Or I may need more money for street closure or whatever, but
Okay. So, I think it's a good idea to say up to 10, and in May you'll come back and tell us what the hard number ends up being, so that we can, frankly, if we need to put an order in, it's easy to put in an order for more of those caps, because I know we're going to run out at the event. I think it's going to be desirable.
Can I just get
those kind of things. So
can I just get suggestions on what trees you want me to focus on?
No, later.
No.
we'll leave it to the
Committee.
Committee.
That's a committee.
All right. Is it,
I mean, if we're paying for this, is it unheard of for us to request from the city to do the street closures without us having to pay for it?
We can ask.
I tried, they said you have to pay, but, you know,
Because we're doing their job.
I'm already working with CD12, so I can push
I'm
for
sorry,
that.
I need to
but when
pause this.
Okay.
I need to pause this and interject.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm just hearing now that there's a potentiality that we purchased a microphone, wireless or anything. You did?
That was under the...
I don't care what's under.
No, was it paid for already?
It wasn't paid for. So who?
I picked it up from your house, what do you mean, the wireless?
Okay.
That's the one.
Okay, I'm just making
It's
sure.
in that box, the PA system, there's a
Oh,
microphone.
okay.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, just to be clear, has anybody bought anything that has not been paid for by the treasurer?
Yeah, just confirming everything.
Well, it's not a separate...
That was not a question for you, Lauren. All right. I'm sorry, can we have the motion? May I recommend that you make a motion to fund this effort for up to...
Yeah, just changing the dollar amount here.
Yes.
Up to,
Up to
21,000
10,000?
to 10.
Up to.
It's already up.
So would you, okay, so we're
Second the motion.
changing the number for up to 10,000. Yes, Andrew.
I have to say that I think this is distasteful to the other two folks who have MPG applications sitting in the audience. They have been sitting here for 3.5 hours, and if this motion passes, they will have wasted 3.5 hours, as their motions have no chance of passage. So I want to put on the record, I think if we're going to do a project like this, kind of our own project, it should be the last thing we hear so that we can give due process to the other organizations that have taken time out of their lives to come present to us.
Do we have speakers for both of the other MPGs?
If I can make a public comment on that?
One? Wait.
Just, not yet.
So we have, who's here for the other MPGs that we have here?
I'm here for the Chinese Association.
And you're here for the other one?
It's a reasonable stake. Well,
not yet.
It's a reasonable stake.
So do you guys want to move this down and move the other two up at this point?
yeah.
That's what he was trying to ask.
That's fine. I'm all right with that.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Let's go to item 24. Andrew?
Motion to approve the MP application for the San Fernando Valley Chinese Cultural Association in the amount of $4,000 for the May Asian American Heritage Month celebration.
Would you please?
Well, is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you.
Just point of order for a second. Just, the motion is stated as a discussion and possible action, so it's not automatically a motion. And that's why it's worded that way, so you shouldn't worry about...
Did I write it that way?
That's what the motion is. It's a discussion and possible action for this purpose. But nonetheless, that's how we have it now. Please go ahead.
My name is Paul Bo. I'm the president of San Fernando Valley Chinese Cultural Association. And this is the first time we're doing a Asian American Heritage Month in May, on May 12th at the Granada Hills High School. And our organization started back in 1971 in San Fernando Valley, and our sole purpose is educate the Chinese language, culture, and customs to the community in San Fernando Valley. So we run a Chinese school at Granada Hills on Saturdays since not 1971, but in 1987, something like that. So we've been continuously providing that foreign language opportunity for any student in the LAUSD, and also for the kids from 9 to 12, actually they can get credit for foreign language if they're interested in learning Chinese. So our event for May 12th is to really try to get community to understand the different Asian cultures. And so we're going to have food and performances from Japanese Taiko group in San Fernando Valley, the Korean folk dance group in San Fernando Valley, and some other performances that our schools have put together to celebrate that May month celebration for the Asian Americans in the Valley. Also bring out the community together so that we have a diverse community around in San Fernando Valley, so that it's open to the public, it's free admission, and we already have set up with the United Hills High School to do the events.
Gentlemen.
Yeah, we're working the numbers, yeah.
Go ahead. Can you share with us what other neighborhood councils or community have provided funding for your event?
Okay, I did present the request, Reseda Neighborhood Council, and they approved the $600 to support us. And I have applied the neighborhood councils, and I will be going to, I think on the 27th, to the Northridge South Neighborhood Council to present for that request. And the other ones, they have not scheduled our application on the agenda. So
I also have a follow-up on that as well, just to share with the community. The grades are 9 through 12 that are attending this. Are they younger? Or?
They're aware actually from K through 12.
K through 12. And then do you have a lot of students that are from the Port Ranch area that are attending the Granada Hills High School?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, that's the way. Actually, it's all over San Fernando Valley and also some are from Santa Clarita.
Right, but it's just, I'm trying to share with you that if our stakeholders, our children, are coming there to be educated, it's important for the board to understand that.
Understand, but this event is open to the public. It's not supporting the school, so the funding is providing this for that celebration event.
Just want to remind the board that it's 10 o'clock. We must vacate this premises, so we have 2 minutes to do this.
How much is the event total?
Okay, so our estimate right now is we're first time doing it.
Yes.
I estimated, for the location, Granada is going to charge $2,000 just for the facility and some of the equipment they're going to have, and we're going to have to pay some of the performers. So $4,000 is we're estimating the total.
For the whole event.
For the whole event?
For the whole event.
Yeah, for the whole event. Yes.
And you just got 600 so far committed.
That's correct. Thank you.
Other questions? Becky, quick.
You're not helping Neighborhood Council contribute?
I applied, and they have not responded, and I just learning this process, so I've been signing up for all the schedules, so I have not seen this. I'm brand new on this scheme.
Suggestions?
Suggestion is $500 donated to...
We don't donate.
NBG.
I'll second.
Call the board.
Just a second. Andrew, yes.
Well, my question is, if you don't get approved for the amount you're asking, which at the very least I would amend down to 3,400 since you have 600 in the bank.
Yes.
If we were to approve a lesser number, will the event still go on?
Yes. We're already committed to it. We'll definitely go on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you want to amend the motion that you made?
There are numbers different. No, I will defer amendment.
To who?
Whoever else wants. Anyone on the board can make a motion to amend.
I'd like to amend the motion for an MPG in the amount of $500 for this event.
I'll second it.
Okay. Public comment, quickly?
We have our name on it.
I'm sorry?
I said, I'm with you as long as we have a council meeting, some kind of banner or something to show.
Yeah, we will. We're going to have sponsors and we'll have...
All right, let's vote. Call the vote.
Alrighty, for the amended motion, to approve the amendment or to approve the
It's the
amendment?
amendment.
Okay, this is just amendment.
What's the difference? We're amending the motion from...
Whether it's two pieces, whether we're approving the amendment and then voting on the MPG with the revised amount, or we're doing it all in one.
We're voting on the revised MPG of $500.
Right. So All right, David,
Yes.
Hassan. Yes. Susan.
Yes.
Alex, absent. Jason.
Yeah.
Andrew.
Yes.
Becky.
Yes.
Jennifer's absent. Assad.
Yes.
Gabriel, yes. Isam.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Item 25, I'm going to come off the floor and tell you, do what you know needs to be done.
Okay, let's go. All right, number one, I'm quickly telling you, outreach, we go to the schools, we have your name on it. 81 judges, they're going to hear all about your deal on our Facebook page and everything else. All right, a lot of outreach, and I can go more than one. Here's the bottom line. County Board of Supervisors have voted probation out of juvenile diversion. Therefore, your minors now are going to have contact with law enforcement, no place to go. Our program is partnered with Superior Court. Los Angeles Police Department is getting an MOU with us. They're at a disaster point. As of May 1st, they want us to start referring minors in the community to us. They have no place else to go with them, okay? We had about 5 from Porter Ranch last year that went through our program. We're now, so it's a teen court program. It's once a month, but we're going up to 3 times a month because LAPD has told us we don't have places for these kids and we've got to do it.
Okay, I need a motion. I'd like to, it's a discussion, I'd like to suggest, and I'm sorry, for what we have, I would suggest the same amount as it is.
I'll second that.
All right, can I have a motion for that?
You just made the motion.
It was a suggestion for a motion. I'll make that motion to provide, fund the MPG request at $500.
I'll second.
Okay. Comment?
Support?
Board? Yes?
Is the program already funded?
Okay, it's going no matter what.
Yes.
Okay, so when we're done, the only thing I'm going to ask is if I can come back next year or not.
You can always come back.
How many, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Members of this program from the Porter Ranch area?
Okay, all funds that you give me is going to be done here. 5 Porter Ranch last year. I expect more. I've got a lot of sexual batteries coming through. Porter Ranch kids, Mountain Hills, the touching of the rear end of females. We're addressing it.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Call the vote.
David.
Yes.
Okay.
Hassan. Yes. Susan.
Yes.
Alex is absent. Jason.
Yes.
Andrew.
No.
Becky.
Yes.
Jennifer is absent. Assad.
Yes.
Gabriel. Yes. Isam.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, would you please change your number for up to $9,000 and let's vote?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion.
I second the motion.
I have the motion to
Up to $9,000.
Up to $9,000 is my motion. Who
All right.
seconded it?
Hassan seconded. I want to call the vote.
Here we go.
All right, David.
Yes.
Hassan. Yes. Susan.
Yes.
Alex is absent. Jason.
Yes.
Andrew.
No.
No. Becky.
Yes.
Yes. Jennifer. Absent. Assad.
Yes.
Gabriel. Yes. Isam.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Passing meeting is adjourned without objection.